It's like polls.
Poll. I was just about to bring up some poll. They were like, we polled 2,200 people, and they are a fan of this mandate. And I was like, bitch, 2,200 people? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
That's like the thing where they said
begin to approach the.
I wish I could remember the exact numbers. Like something like 56% of all Republicans believe QAnon, and I was like, out of the fucking 2,000 people you called in fucking Harrisburg, South Carolina,
and asked, do you want to talk about QAnon? Like, of course they were like, hell yeah.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Yo, what's up, internet? Welcome back to another episode of Three Averagely Intelligent Dudes, and today we're discussing dangerous ideas, as we always do.
We've got three dangerous ideas today.
Hit them with the 3-piece this time.
Yeah, it's a 3-piece.
Still no biscuit. It's really like a 7-piece, because we talked about
actually did hit a couple things,
little bonus points in there, but we're really talking about, Biden's new mandates on vaccines and how that kind of affects everybody, and some of our thoughts and views on that and where we're at with that. Mac's going to bring up a cool idea about this futuristic city built by this billionaire executive. It's called Telosa. It's going to be a really interesting topic. And then John had us talking a little bit about that big old $3.5 trillion. What do they call it?
Well, I call it the social safety net expansion, but everybody calls it the cradle to grave benefits.
So
otherwise known as the human infrastructure bill.
I like that.
That's what I've heard some Congress people telling
different
it.
takes on it, and so you can only imagine what's coming up next. So see. This shit here?
Oh, the vaccine mandate?
Here,
Oh, yeah. That's
dog?
awesome fuckery. I remember we had a fight.
This shit right here.
This shit here, dog?
We had a fight early on when we started the podcast, like episode 1 or 2, where we were all like, if they force us to wear masks, there's no way I'm wearing a fucking mask, bro. I remember having that conversation with my mom in April of 2020. I was like, they could try to, really incentivize it, but they can't force anybody. And now they're like, hey, you want a job?
I want to open up directly with, I want to watch him give that speech.
Okay.
Because some of his wording, bro.
Yeah,
It took infuriating.
Yeah, I took.
It was like, it made me mad.
Yeah, I was rather upset with one particular phrase.
I know exactly what one you're going for. I saw it in your stories.
Yeah, one particular phrase got me, and I was like,
bruh.
First, we must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. With nearly 80 million eligible Americans who have not gotten vaccinated, many said they were waiting for approval from the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Well, last month, the FDA granted that approval. So, the time for waiting is over. This summer, we made progress through the combination of vaccine requirements and incentives, as well as the FDA approval. 4 million more people got their first shot in August than they did in July. But we need to do more. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you. The people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love. My job as president is to protect all Americans. So tonight, I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. Some of the biggest companies are already requiring this. United Airlines, Disney, Tyson's Food, and even Fox News. The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers. We're going to reduce the spread of COVID-19 by increasing the share of the workforce that is vaccinated in businesses all across America. My plan will extend the vaccination requirements that I previously issued in the healthcare field. Already, I've announced we'll be requiring vaccinations at all nursing home workers, who treat patients on Medicare and Medicaid because I have that federal authority. Tonight, I'm using that same authority to expand that to cover those who work in hospitals, home health care facilities, or other medical facilities, a total of 17 million healthcare workers. If you're seeking care at a health facility, you should be able to know that the people treating you are vaccinated. Simple, straightforward, period. Next, I will sign an executive order that will now require all executive branch federal employees to be vaccinated, all. And I've signed another executive order that will require federal contractors to do the same. If you want to work with the federal government and do business with us, get vaccinated. If you want to do business with the federal government, vaccinate your workforce. And tonight, I'm removing one of the last remaining obstacles that make it difficult for you to get vaccinated. The Department of Labor will require employers with 100 or more workers to give those workers paid time off to get vaccinated. If we raise our vaccination rate, protect ourselves and others with masking, expanded testing, and identify people who are infected, we can and we will turn the tide on COVID-19. It'll take a lot of hard work. It's going to take some time. Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free. While the vaccines provide strong protection for the vaccinated, we read about and hear about and we see the stories of hospitalized people on their deathbeds among the unvaccinated over the past few weeks. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. My message to unvaccinated Americans is this: what more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see? We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. The vaccine has FDA approval. Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
Yeah, that's pretty inflammatory.
He's like, next we bring the guns.
It's funny, like the scales we like hold up the presidents to, because if Trump had said something like that, like we would have said it was inflammatory, but he would have said 10 other inflammatory things, you know?
Oh, yeah, it would have been worse.
But now we like look at Joe Biden and we're like listening, and he sounds like a president. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we can agree he sounds like a president. He's like talking in a measured tone to the Americans. He's focused. And he says that line, and we're like, you're gonna fucking break my door down, Joe Biden. You know?
I mean, yo, he leaned in on you like a mob boss. He was like, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, bro, you coming at me a little aggressive here.
I feel like it has more weight than if Trump's up there spitting 10 different crazy-ass one-liners. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I couldn't help but think, like, it sounds like George Bush addressing terrorists. You know what I mean? He's like, we've tried to do this peacefully, but it's time to get ugly. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, he's like, we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what you gonna do?
Well, there's an inherent
democratic society.
There's an inherent threat that underlies that statement.
Right.
Like, your patience is wearing. Oh well. Like that's the first thing that I thought when I heard him say that. I was like, so, like, I don't give a shit what your patience is. I don't give a shit. Your patience is wearing thin. That doesn't mean anything to me. But of course, it has to have some sort of a threat behind it. Otherwise, it's a completely empty statement.
Right. Yeah.
Which it might just be a completely empty statement, but considering all the bullshit that they're doing, I think it is not.
I picked out a lot of different influences, like, you know, like the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love, right? It's like he's using blood or money tactics, you know what I mean? So it's like, first he's like, you know, trying to incentivize you with the things that you care about. But then he also hits you with the stick just in case you were like, but he was like, but also, though, I will intimidate you as well if I have to. Yeah. You know, it's just like so many different influence techniques being used in this.
And if you think about it as him addressing the unvaccinated people, because that's essentially what he's doing, there's just a lot of ways that he addresses the unvaccinated there that are just like, what? Like, you didn't have to come out here and call it a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Like, that's such a shitty way to say, like, a lot of people are hesitant about a vaccine for a brand new disease.
Yeah, I love you take it there. That's my first point with this whole thing, because obviously there's like a million things to talk about with this. But my first thing is, I don't like this energy of like directing the fault of everything towards people who are unvaccinated. Like, this is, you're the reason the pandemic continues. You're this and that. I'm glad you made that point. Like, you brought that up, because obviously there's tons of stuff to talk about with this, but that was the first thing was to me that I didn't like about this, was it made it seem like this whole pandemic is like all our fault or people's fault for not being vaccinated. And I just think that that's very divisive. Like you said, like in the last presidency, we were always pointing to like divisiveness, and like, you know, it's like pointing everybody who is vaccinated at the people who are not. And then, like I said, kind of like assigning blame to them. And I'm like, look, man, like, we still don't even know where this came from. You know what I mean? We don't know. But I'm like, I didn't create coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't make this happen. Like, you know, I didn't bring this to our, you know, society or whatever. And so, like, pointing the blame at us or saying like that is like, I don't know. Like I said, it just felt really divisive and really like trying to use social pressure, you know. Which
definitely trying to use social pressure. I mean, it's not a very nice tactic.
No.
It's like you said, it's very authoritarian to come out and say like, this is the other, you know, like you should be angry, or, you know, you should pressure the other to do what you're doing, to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. I don't want.
That's why he said we've all been frustrated.
Yeah, we're frustrated with
We're
y'all.
frustrated with all of you.
You're allowing this to continue and all this stuff, and I'm just like, bro, like, let's not even act like this vaccine's like some type of magic bullet, right? Like, there's been a lot of, I'm not going to say it doesn't help. Like, it obviously does seem to help, you know, stop you from getting in the hospital, as they say, and stuff like that. But I've seen some numbers as low as like 40% effectiveness in like real world situations. And this was based on like an Israeli study that they did because of the Delta variant and stuff like that. But still, so it's like, you know, this idea that if you just get the vaccine then all of this goes away is such a sketchy proposition.
Well, also because we know that it doesn't protect you from getting infected.
Yeah.
The vaccine helps you, it combats severe illness, and it definitely lowers your rate of death, the rate of death from people who get COVID. But the idea that the unvaccinated are somehow dangerous to the vaccinated isn't true, because the vaccinated can infect each other just as much as the unvaccinated could infect them. There's no difference there. If you could still get infected by someone who has the vaccine, then not having the vaccine isn't protecting you at all. I could see if it were the case that vaccinated people couldn't spread the disease, but unvaccinated people could. I still wouldn't agree with it, but I could see like that would be an actual valid point to be making. Like, oh, the unvaccinated are putting the vaccinated in danger. But that's not the case, because the vaccinated can spread it just as much as regular people.
Well, they say not just as much. Like, there's a lot less chance.
Well, they don't know how much you can spread it. All they know is that you have the same viral load if you're vaccinated as to if you're unvaccinated. They don't know how. Depends on what studies you look at.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I did see that in the study they said that you do have less of the viral load in your system if you're vaccinated, and that's a part of the reason why you tend to not get as many symptoms and all these things. They said you know, it just seems to be more mild of a case if you do catch it with the vaccine and whatnot. But even this now, like, here's what's weird too about this whole situation, right? From Jump Street, it keeps moving. Like, the goalpost keeps moving. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all the goals that were at the forefront, you know, are no longer the goals. So it's like when we first started, it was like, get the vaccine. This will stop you from ever having it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, that's the solution.
Yeah, back to life.
Yeah, but then it quickly comes out that, oh, that's not necessarily the case. So now it's like, well, get the vaccine. At least you won't go in the hospital, right? And it's like, okay, that would be great, but you didn't start with that, though. Now, and it's just like this keeps changing. Like, first it was like, we need herd immunity, right? Well, herd immunity doesn't require 100% vaccinated. That's not, you know what I mean? I think it's like I don't know what the percentage is. I'm not going to throw some fake percentage out. But it's like a majority of people need to be vaccinated or have antibodies in their system, and then that will cause the virus to have less and less hosts to be able to. So herd immunity, you don't hear about none of that anymore. Now it's like 100% vaccinations or nothing.
Well, this is a point I want to keep, because I haven't said it yet, and none of us have really said it yet, but the testing thing, like that's such a big deal that we keep, as a society, like all of our media is completely glossing over. I mean, even we're talking about vaccine versus unvaccinated. And it's like, he literally said right there in the thing we watched, or you can just get a test every week.
Yeah.
So now if this came out and they were like, Biden signs executive order for testing mandate, how would we feel about that? Hey, everybody needs to get tested every week so that you're not spreading COVID around your workplace. If you have 100 or more workers, then everybody's got to get at least tested once a week. That would be a completely different news story. You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
But that's the fucking news story. Yeah. That's what he just said. Now, we focus on the vaccine part because it sounds scary. It sounds authoritarian. Sure. But if he had leaned in and been like, everybody's got to get tested. Okay, once a week. We got to go in there. We don't want to get your grandma sick. Yeah. We would probably feel a little different
masks.
about it.
I wouldn't feel any different about that.
I would feel completely different about that.
I would feel completely different about it.
I wouldn't feel any different about that.
That's the thing that when they put that in there, I was like, okay, you're giving us an out. You know, like I get, like, it felt like he was in the meeting. He was like, I'm going to require everybody to get vaccinated. And they were like, well, hold on. Maybe you should give them, like, another option, or else motherfuckers are gonna, you know, riot out here in the streets. So I feel like that was like their way of like softening the blow, was by also offering this highly inconvenient solution. But at the same time, like you said, that it feels like masks to me, right?
Yeah.
Like it is a overreach, but I could see why you would do that. You know what I mean? Like you said, like you need to at least be identified as somebody. Like that's a fair ask, I feel.
What if everybody asked? What if he came out and said, "There's now going to be mandated testing for gonorrhea"? Would you feel any different about that?
Well, depending. Is this like an OSHA issue? Are you working with people and easily spreading gonorrhea by like just being in the workplace with them?
I'm just saying it's the exact same. It's a medical test to test if you have a disease.
But
and they're going to mandate it.
It is a different type of disease
that's completely irrelevant.
Like consensual.
Well, it's completely irrelevant to the structure of the policy. Because again, this is slippery. This is literally the definition of a slippery slope. If you let them do it with this medical policy, what's to say they don't keep doing it with every medical policy?
I get that this is a principle thing, but you know, principles aside, if you look at this from just the COVID-19 pandemic and this is a swab up your nose, I see where you're saying it is an overreach. I agree with you 100% that our president should not be coming out and saying you got to stick a tube up your nose every week. Like, I don't want that mandate. Like, I don't want that tube up my nose every week. But at the same time, I see the difference between that and, you know, getting a penal swab, you know, like, or them making me pee in a cup, or like, you know, like all these other things for other diseases or other things like that. Like, if they said if you have 100 employees or over, you can't eat sugar. And you know you have to only drink water. You know what I mean? Like those are like big. Like whoa, you're mandating my life.
Right. That's where I was gonna take it with same setup, but I would be like, you know, statistics overwhelmingly show that the unhealthy are also the ones that are getting fucked up.
78% were obese.
That are dying. So like, where's the automatic you will work out 30 minutes a day mandate? You know, or like the
Mr. Smith jumping jacks.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, today
my watch does it to me.
I'm signing an executive order that will immediately shut down McDonald's. Like, you know, where is that at? You know, like, but
that's nowhere to be seen because they don't really give a shit about your health.
But, you know, people would be in an uproar about that type of situation.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people who are pro-vaccine would be anti the mandatory working out thing. Now, with that being said, okay, I get your premise and I feel you. It is an overreach.
It's a principle issue.
It's how
I feel about it.
I always approach these things with the understanding like how I want my democracy to actually work, right? And I have to understand that I have principles, you have principles, and we got to meet somewhere in the middle. Like, we're going to have to meet somewhere. And so I have places that I won't go, but then there's things I will concede to keep the machine cohesive, right? And so that's where I get with that. Like, I don't want the testing, still feel like it's overreach and it's fucked, but I can give you that. I can't give you vaccines, though. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't give you foreign substance into my body that I have no science or I don't know anything about, right? Like, and then I have to carry that with me for the rest of my life. Like, I just don't know what it is and all that stuff. So, like, for me, that's just where my line is. But as uncomfortable as I am with that other one and understand all those things, that's just one of those things where I like, okay, I got to give a little bit. They got to give a little bit, and we can meet somewhere in the middle. That's my compromise.
I would prefer if they didn't force us to get tested once a week.
Yeah.
Or it force us.
But I didn't want to get. I didn't want to wear a mask.
I will say that it's obviously him coming out and giving that contingency of being able to get tested once a week is better than not having that option. And if I'm being honest, like if I had a job right now, then I would get the tests. Like if I needed the job and everything, like I would make that compromise and everything. But again, like since I'm not in a job and I'm in my cushy tie-dye chair where I can just make pronouncements about things however I wish, I don't fucking agree with that.
Well, it's only a matter of time before you're not allowed to have a YouTube channel if you're not vaccinated too or whatever.
Right, exactly.
So,
and then I wouldn't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
you go to buy your groceries, it's like bloop.
Yep, scan your.
Why isn't it working? Bloop.
Sir, go ahead and put in your Smith's card and your vaccination ID number
can you
as well.
put your thumb on there? We need to make sure you've been vaccinated or tested this week.
Right.
It's like the Minority Report thing where like the store scans your retinas as you walk in, so it like knows who you are and shit. It's like,
But I saw a really good YouTube short that was just so funny and on point about this. But it was like this guy, and he's like, "Man, a lot of you guys, you won't get vaccinated, but you'll smoke cigarettes every day and this and that." And then so it's like one of those response TikToks. And so the other guy comes out and he's like, hey, let me explain for you real quick. I'm going to explain it to you real quick. Don't worry about it. And he points up. He's like, "You see this here? And it's American flag." He's like, "You know what this means?" And then he's like, "This stands for freedom." He was like, "So if you want to smoke, by all means smoke. If you don't, then don't. If you want to get vaccinated, by all means get vaccinated. But if you don't, then don't. And he's like that. And then I was just like, damn, that's so on point, you know, because we do point to all these things. They're like, yo, working out can help you. Eating less cheeseburgers, stop you from heart attacks. There's so many things you can do for your health to protect yourself. I wear condoms. I'm not out here being like, everybody need to wear a condom in this bitch.
Mandated condom wearing.
I don't want AIDS. Mandate everybody wears condoms. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you want to protect yourself, I own a gun. You need to own a gun too. You need to be protected.
I got a better parallel. I got a better parallel for you. You said cigarettes and it fucking clicked for me.
Yeah.
You can't go into your workplace and light up cigarettes around your buddies.
It's true.
Because you're going to give them all fucking cancer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So OSHA came in and was like, no smoking in the workplace.
Right.
And that's the same power he's using right here for the testing and vaccine mandate. He's saying, this isn't about your personal individual freedoms. It's about the health and safety of your workplace.
Yeah.
That's
But
a dirty, underhanded motherfucking tactic.
In the cigarettes, it actually makes sense.
It's going to work.
Because secondhand smoke has negative effects for you. Mm-hmm. But as I described earlier, like the whole thing with the vaccines is like there really isn't sufficient evidence to say that having the vaccine doesn't protect you from unvaccinated people or from vaccinated people for that matter. And so that's why it's like he even used, you know, that exact same type of logic. Like you need to protect yourself and everyone else. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if everyone else has the vaccine, then they are protected. And at that point, I'm only choosing not to protect myself.
He should have
because you can transfer it between each other.
Well, I was going to say, you should have said, you know, the unvaccinated people need to protect themselves from the other unvaccinated people who opted out and got the test. Because that's kind of one of the big arguments, too, is that unvaccinated people spreading it to other unvaccinated people are going to cause the mutations. And that's where Delta variant came from.
That's where they get to say, you are being a danger to us because by you allowing it to replicate and mutate, you're rendering our vaccines ineffective. And so, I mean, it's a strong argument.
That's not to say that it can't mutate in a vaccinated person. It can mutate to go against the vaccine.
Well, but if it doesn't spread, doesn't have a host, like a virus has to continuously find a host. So if it doesn't have a host to do all this mutating and living, then the logic is that it won't have a chance.
Yeah, if it's say 40% effective to where you can't get it.
Here's an interesting story that you guys may not have heard. Since I am learning about hunting and everything, I hear and I listen to podcasts and people talk about different things that are happening in hunting culture. And right now, there's a really large outbreak of COVID-19 in deer population in the Midwest.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't seem to be showing any symptoms or having any sort of negative effects from it. But I think particularly in like Wyoming and Michigan, these states are having, because there's also another disease called CWD, chronic wasting disease, and it's only in ungulates, hoofed animals, but they're afraid that it might jump to humans because so many people eat venison. And so now some of these states or counties have required testing of your game. So you send in your deer, and they're also testing them for COVID and stuff like that too. And they're finding like a lot of these deer have COVID. And so it's not unlikely to think that these deer might not be having adverse symptoms, but it could mutate in the deer and then jump to a human who eats it or something like that.
Same way it supposedly jumped from a bat to a pangolin.
Right.
Too.
And so the idea that you're cutting down, you'd literally have to start restricting all kinds of things to limit a virus's ability to mutate into a version that would get around the vaccines, because that can happen in animals, it can happen in fish. Like,
but
the virus can
you got to
jump.
admit that it's a lot harder for it to jump from the deer to the human than it is from the human to the human.
We'll jump from a bat to a pangolin.
Listen, we
to
got
a
to
goose.
vaccinate.
I'm not saying it's
our
not harder.
livestock. Okay.
Yeah, you know,
Kill the minks.
because you would be the same guy to be anti-hormones or anything like that, or like vaccines or anything that they wanted to start pumping into the animals too. So it's like,
Of course.
you know.
I feel like that's something they're already doing to the majority of all the animals
they are.
that are
Well,
massively produced.
so
is
here's-
pumping them full of vaccines and anti.
Which is why I'm trying to get into hunting.
So here's the same argument, or another argument that I see a lot of people pro-vaccine and stuff is like, all of us at this table are vaccinated.
Oh yeah,
Like, you know,
mandatory.
Not against COVID necessarily, but we all have received vaccines in our lifetime. The idea of a mandatory vaccine is not a new concept, you know.
But it's not government run.
What do you mean?
The vaccines that you get as a child, like those aren't
Pretty
prescribed by the government. Like, you're not forced to.
Pretty sure. I mean, they might be
It's
state
like school
government,
stuff.
but-
You know, like, that's more local. That's like I have much more. I look at the state government doing something, or like my local government doing something, in a different light than I do at the federal government level, because the federal government is so far removed from people's everyday lives. People live different lives and they have different cultures in different states. And so I feel like the more localized you get with the policy making, the more apt it is to be successful for that particular area. Whereas with the federal government, it's just a blanket thing. Everybody, 350 million people, you're all going to do this same thing, even though it may not be right for you.
But I mean, with something like smallpox or polio or something like that, like the federal government, I'm pretty sure came down and was like,
It's not.
If you want to
it's
go to
states,
school,
but
so there could be a state that says you don't have to get vaccinated for smallpox,
there can be,
polio.
yeah.
Really, that is interesting.
Yeah, it says.
I'm sure that there are some too.
It just said that all states require it. It never said that the federal government announced the creation of a safe and effective vaccine. So yeah, has never attempted to issue a vaccine mandate to the scale of Biden's. So yeah, it's every state adopted the.
It just, I
mandate,
guess it was
but-
like common sense.
Yeah, like they all felt like it. Yeah, like that was just the move, you know, because like a lot of states have required children to start. I think California is one of them, you know, who've already started mandating children get it to come into schools and stuff. So, you know,
And now let me be clear, though. I brought up the distinction between federal and state government and how I look at those types of policies differently. But if Nevada, the state that we live in, came out and was like, we want all Nevada, every resident of Nevada has to be vaccinated, I wouldn't fuck with that either. Even though it is on a state level, I still wouldn't fuck with it.
but it just gives you a better taste in your mouth.
But what it means, like, it would show me that. Well, it just be. I only give it a tiny amount of more, like, acceptance, if you will, or I don't even know what the word.
Credence?
Yeah, only a tiny little bit amount, just because they're trying to be more localized, and I think more localization is better. So I give it a little bit of credit for that, but I'm still about the policy.
Well, that's why I feel like, you know, get as local as possible. Like self-governance is the best governance, right? You know, like, and I've fallen on this too. Like, I like a state government better than I like a federal government, but that doesn't mean that I like a state government, right? Like,
Facts.
that's just like a better option.
Thank you for saying
Like
my
the-
words for me.
Right. Yeah. Like the smaller I can get it, the better,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, because they're
But-
both representational democracies. They're
Right.
not populist.
Sure.
Like even at the state level, it's not like they
people
come out.
still disagree.
Yeah, no, at the state level too, you still elect a guy who goes and makes the decisions.
Right.
You don't get to make the decisions yourself.
Like look in California, they're having a struggle right now with like the government that they have in place there and stuff, or in LA specifically. So it's like you could still have that same thing that happens at like where it feels blanketed at a federal level. It could still feel very blanketed. Being somebody who is more Democratic leaning in Texas was like a struggle sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's like it could still happen there, but at the same time, it feels better. Nonetheless, my point being is all those other vaccinations, though, this is where it gets weird and tricky to me, right? Like, how many times you got the polio vaccine?
Once.
Damn, how many times you got Ebola vaccine?
Well, I didn't get any of that. But
I thought they had a vaccine.
How many times did you get to the anthrax vaccination?
Once.
Not true. I think we go through 4 different stages.
There's multiple shots, but then once you're done, you're done. They're already talking about booster shots. They're already talking about, you might get a 3rd shot. So
Israel's
am I going to be
giving out
mandatory?
booster shots.
Like I got to get a vaccine every 6 months, state mandated. You know what I mean? Like
that's what it's looking like.
It's just,
that's where the trend's heading.
It's sketchy. Like and also I'm just not as afraid of these diseases. Like polio. Fuck,
that's a fucking serious disease.
Yeah, well, fuck you up. We're talking about a strong flu here. We're not talking about an Ebola that is so catastrophically infectious that it would wipe us out in an instant.
And that's I said that in one of our first talks about vaccines. I was like, look, if this shit was Ebola and Ebola was going around, I'd be getting running that vaccine. I'd be in the first fucking line like, yo, let's get it.
If you got anything that even potentially might save my life. But I've had COVID. And I'm standing here doing a podcast still. So it's just like, it doesn't represent that level of threat to me personally. That's just my risk assessment. I understand everybody's different. Somebody might have had a family member die or something. And they risk, assess their risk way differently.
Immunocompromised or something like that. Yeah.
So I get that. But for me, it's just like, this doesn't feel like one of those vaccines.
It's not scary enough to me to become a first adopter. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, if COVID's still around in 10 years and it's still wreaking havoc on people, but the vaccines have been shown like long term to not have any sort of weird side effects and stuff, I'd be more willing to look at that again. But it's just like, I'm not a beach stormer. I don't storm the beaches. I leave other people to do that.
And for Biden to sit there and be like, what more do you need? I'm like,
I would love it if you stopped lying.
Like, I would like 5 years at least, please. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how long does it take y'all to bring other drugs to market? Things that like it take y'all 10 years to develop a fat loss pill, and then you're all like, what more? I got the FDA approval. I'm like, bitch, the FDA approved cigarettes. Like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't trust them either.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So to me, I thought that was just really petty too, to just be like, it's only 18 months that y'all have had this thing.
I also thought about this. We've had a great awakening in this country, I would say, in the last few years, and I've seen it in myself and yourself and Mac as well, where it's like, if you took me and you in the build up to deploying to Iraq, or even when we joined the army, we sat there and got stuck 17
Countless times, like hundreds
and didn't
of times.
Literally, I'm speaking for you, but I'm sure it's the same. You didn't think a fucking thing about it. I didn't think a thing about it. I was just like, what do I have to do?
Yep.
Okay.
I remember thinking I was terrified of shots. Like, I was like deathly afraid of shots from like a little child. And then I was standing in that line and I was like, I got to get these shots.
With all those other men.
And I was just like, oh shit, like I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like I can't, what am I to do? Tell them no? You know what I mean? Like, what, I'm going to start crying like a little bitch?
Not the army.
100 different like of my classmates, I was just
or get in trouble, like, how do you refuse?
Yeah, so I just stood there and I just took it. They put that peanut butter shot in my ass and everything, and I was just, to this day, I still don't know what they pumped me with.
I have I found my shot records the other day in my in my army medical records. I was like, man, this is wild.
Yeah.
Like, I knew, but I didn't like know.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what these diseases were,
Sure.
like how they had affected our society, things like that.
And I got to admit that was that experience is what sets up this guy who's not anti-vaccine because I don't give a fuck. You want it, get it. I could care less, right? But who's not getting it now? It's like, that's what bred my distrust for my government, was just like being in that situation. So before then, though, I had a blind faith. Like you said, I was not awoke to any idea that my government might not be the best decision maker for me. Like I just, even as I look at like my vaccines from a child, I didn't decide that. You know what I mean? I just went to school. Like nobody asked me like, what do you think about this vaccine? Or, I just didn't have any opinions like that. I saw my kid was down in the living room breaking down her opinions of like this vaccine mandate and stuff. And I was like, damn, this is such a weird world. Cause like when I was a kid, I wouldn't have known shit about
instant information exchange.
Yeah. I was like, I would have not. I was watching cartoons, and on the cartoons don't talk about vaccines.
Nope.
But TikTok does.
By design, cartoons don't talk about vaccines.
Yeah.
And so I would like to ask you guys: do you think that when you guys were getting those vaccinations as children, and then also in the Army, would you say that you were more naive to the underbelly of the government than you are today?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
100%.
100%.
I would say not until I was in Iraq in the lead up from leaving Kuwait to go into Iraq did I ever think in my head that the Army was doing some shit that had zero interest. Like my best interests were never thought about. Yeah. Not for a second. Neither were the American people's. Like the only thing that mattered when I was sitting in Kuwait looking around and everything, I was like, this is all for corporations to make money. This has nothing to do with keeping us safe. This has nothing to do with me being like a better person. Like I'm doing a job for a mob boss, and that mob boss is America.
Yeah. For me, it was not finding WMDs. That was the turning point for me, because like you said, I was there. We walked all up and down them deserts. We kicked all the doors in. We did all this stuff, and I, I brought this example up plenty of times on the show, but it's just like, for me, when they were 10 years deep, and they were like, I don't know.
I guess the CIA got it wrong.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I was just like, nah, this doesn't make any sense to me. You're talking about the greatest nation in the world, supposedly, with the best intel, the best military, the best technology, and you just got it wrong. You killed thousands of people just to get it wrong.
I can see if they,
that doesn't make any sense.
People make mistakes. It's not like anybody in the government's infallible or anything like that. But I think that the scale comes to play in situations like that. Like if they had said like, oh, well, we thought that the guy was in this building of the city, but actually he was in this other building of that city, or maybe he was in a town outside of the city or something like that. Like that's an acceptable, like, hey, your intel, maybe the guy you were getting the information from wasn't privy to the most up-to-date information. But to say that a country has a massive weapons of mass destruction producing capability and a growing stockpile of these weapons, and you don't find not only any of the weapons, but you don't find any of the infrastructure to actually make any of these weapons.
Find nothing.
Like, how do you not notice that the country that you accuse of having weapons of mass destruction does not even literally have the capabilities of making said weapons? Where are they making them then?
And when I talk about the awakening, I want to point to, because man, you guys are hitting it out of the park with these examples, and I gotta bring one to you.
Yeah.
I didn't even know until 2 days ago that, you remember the whole Afghanistan tunnels, the network of tunnels in Tora Bora.
Network.
And
I do.
And how homeboys in the mountains.
Yeah,
and they put out an infographic. The CIA, the media, they came out and they had this infographic, and it was like showing like what the tunnels in Tora Bora looked like. And it was like underground ventilation with the water systems for purification. And the fucking, you can drive a fucking car right in.
Their entire society.
These insane advanced tunnels they were talking about in a fucking Stone Age country. And first of all, the tunnels weren't that crazy intense. They were pretty intense because Osama bin Laden's family in Saudi Arabia owned like a construction company, so he flew in bulldozers and shit. But who paid Osama bin Laden to do all that work? Was it the CIA? Did the CIA fund the Tora Bora tunnels? They did, didn't they?
Wow.
That's a little strange. The same tunnels that we put up infographics about telling our people that he was hiding in this Dr. Doom evil fucking lair. We're fucking nowhere near that fucking advanced, and on top of that, funded by us. Not just funded by us like some American investor, some angel investor came in, Elon Musk came in and dropped a couple bit. No, the CIA, the taxpayers built the goddamn tunnels in Tora Bora. And I didn't know until yesterday. Now, I'm not saying that people couldn't have found that information out in 2009 or something. Maybe that information was out there. But come on, man. I
And you trust your government?
I pay attention. And I didn't know until yesterday. When did you find out? Just now?
Let us know in the comments when you found out about the tour.
Just found out about that.
So the point I'm trying to make there is like you talk about the underbelly of the government. And when I was getting those fucking shots in 2007, or when I was getting shots going to fucking elementary school, I had no idea the amount of lies and bullshit fuckery. And fuckery.
Dude,
exactly.
And I was just pointing out the same concept too with all these different things that we're talking about, right? In that, do they ever come out and they say, whoops, we were wrong?
No. No sorry.
We made a mistake. Nope. The tactic is always the same. You just change the narrative.
Yep.
You just switch it up. You just move your objective to something new and say, well, no, this is what we're doing now. And it's like, yeah, but and that's the same thing I'm seeing with this vaccine shit. You know, it's like you come out so strong. It's like, I know what I'm talking about. And then later, you don't say, oh, my bad, we didn't know what we were talking about. This is, new stuff. No, you just say, this is what I'm talking about now. And it's like, what? Like, and nobody stops and asks themselves, like, how is this, like, why is this narrative keep changing? And, like, what exactly are we doing to what end?
I still remember the curve. Nobody talks about the curve anymore. I remember the curve. The curve was like all the rage at the beginning of it. It was all about the curve.
Stop the curve.
The curve. WMDs and the curve. Yep. And now all of that shit's like a fantasy fairy tale land.
All that shit. Now it's all about like
vaccine.
Just get it. Just do it.
Now it's all about vaccines and variants.
Yeah.
The V's.
Yeah. And I, like I said, I get that you're learning as you go, right? Like I understand that. I get it. I don't expect you to know everything right off the get. But at the same time, don't come at me like you know everything right off the get. Don't sit here and tell me, what more do you need to see? Like, bitch, you obviously need to see more. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Prove to me it didn't come from a lab.
You know what I'm saying? You still haven't done that. Yeah. And then for them to come out and be like, well, it's your fault. Like, nah, bitch, I don't own a lab. Okay? I don't have no.
I don't do gain of function research in Wuhan. I don't do any of that.
I don't buy bats. I don't do none of that
I don't eat pangolins.
I was literally, I washed my hands in this entire situation.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. And so it's like to watch two people get into a fight and then them point it at you and be like, it's your fault we're fighting. Like, well, like, I don't have no dog. Like I said, I don't care. I didn't tell you to get the vaccine. I'm not like, you know what I mean? I'm just over here doing my own thing. Yeah. I'm just doing my own thing. And for you to turn all the maliciousness and like blame towards those people who are just doing their own thing is like it feels so anti-American. I just can't even wrap my fucking mind around it.
We've kind of talked about the like principles and the overarching narratives and stuff of this whole move, but I kind of want to break down some of the intricacies of this policy. The first one being the completely arbitrary and non-scientific 100 people. Yeah. Now, the only reason that they did that, and you might have noticed it in the videos, he specifically says that there's roughly 80 million Americans that are unvaccinated, that are able to get it. And the numbers that they set up for the 100 people cutoff, if you have 100 employees, well, amongst the corporations that employ 100 people, that adds up to about roughly 80 million people. And so like their whole idea is like, we're going to make the numbers fit here. And it's like 100 people, not 103 people, not 97 people,
not
like
50?
Not 50. Like it's just 100. It's a nice round number that dummy regular people can understand. We'll go out there, Joe Biden, just go out there and tell them 100. They can understand 100.
Aren't small businesses like the majority of all businesses in America too?
No, well, I mean, it's something like 60% of people are either truckers or retail, and then
truckers and retail, that doesn't mean that they work for one trucking company.
Well, I'm saying like, if you're a trucker and you work for a company, that company is likely to employ more than 100
My
people.
grandfather
Not necessarily. My grandfather was an owner-operator trucker. He just went and picked up trailers and took them somewhere. Most truckers are like that. They don't work. They're contractors.
I was going to say, didn't he say contractors that work with...
For the federal
contract. So if you have a federal contract, you have to... The people working in that... But there's tons of caveats to that. There's tons of exceptions. He said all federal employees of the executive branch will have to be vaccinated, except for the post office. Postal workers don't have to do that because they have a really strong union. Teachers don't have to worry. Any public schools that get federal funding, none of those people have to get vaccines because they have a really strong union. And the unions were pissed when he came out here and did this. They were like, yo.
Union episode.
Yeah, the unions were like, yo, we get to negotiate about this shit, dog. Like, you're not going to come up in here and tell us what our union members going to have to do. And so no postal workers have to get vaccinated at all, which seems weird considering the postal workers have the most direct access to you of anybody in the federal government.
Well, I mean, is OSHA able to kind of override those things with safety in the workplace?
I don't think so. It depends on how strong the union is.
That would be fascinating. Well, because like OSHA does kind of have like unanimous authority.
Well, they did say that it, in one of the articles I have that I kind of screenshot on my phone that I was reading through, they do say things about like they don't have a lot of teeth in the sense of like enforcing these things. Like OSHA being able to show up and investigate and find people is like a small body. Like they're not going to be able to go to every employer that has over 100 people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you brought up that I don't want to miss out on making the point about with this 100 people arbitrary bullshit number, Democrats get really mad when they think Republicans are using voting laws to target poor people and black people and minorities.
Yeah.
This mandate is targeting poor people, black people, and minorities. Because if you look at the numbers of the unvaccinated, it is the biggest number is people that make under $25K a year, and the other biggest number when it goes by race is black people of color. So it's like you're with this vaccine mandate going to disproportionately affect people of color and poor people.
Most Democrats, I don't want to make it political because it's not most Democrats, but would see this as a beneficial thing to the color people and to the disenfranchised.
Which is just, it's a great point of the intelligentsia that has been around forever, which is that other people think that they know better for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like we in the government know better than you poor black people. We're going to tell you what you need. You need this vaccine. Whereas the poor black people are like, I don't think so. I'm all right. Yeah. If I wanted it, I would have got it. It's free, right? So it's no big deal. Technically, I've already paid for it.
The old white lady who represents Detroit thinks that everyone in Detroit should be vaccinated.
Exactly. Yeah. She knows what's best.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, and when he said, Biden goes, he was like, I use my authority to mandate all federal employees and federal contractors. And he's like, I'm using that same authority in a place where you don't have any of that authority. Like, what are you talking about? He was like, I'm using that same authority to mandate all private businesses.
All private hospitals now have to do what I say.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, you do have authority in the federal government, but that does not translate into civilian the private workforce.
Which is why we're going to see, a lot of
massive amounts of lawsuits.
Yeah, court stuff. Idaho's already like suing the administration. Yeah. We have a lot.
But how effective do you think that's going to be, though?
It depends. I mean, if this makes its way to the Supreme Court, like Roe v. Wade or like any of these other big things, like we could see, a year from now, the Supreme Court like making a ruling on this or something like that. Like it could take an extremely long time.
It's going to be a huge precedent set either way, right?
It's a huge clusterfuck is what it is.
Well, because I mean, you got to understand how much the Constitution can be restricted with something like that. You brought it up earlier about like if you can just start mandating the entire workforce to do anything that is just extremely sketchy. You know what I mean? With an executive order at that, like that the president can just come out and say, all you bitches gonna do this because I said so. That's sketchy, Like
now that has been done before in the past for things like World War I and II, where they took over factories. It was like, okay, I know that you guys make hard hats
or post 9/11,
or but you're gonna start making fucking tank materials and shit. Like you're gonna start manufacturing bullets because like that's what we need. And so like that's where the like emergent. That's why Biden said like in my emergency powers. Like that's what it is. They're just using the pandemic as an emergency.
Anytime you hear that word,
you could make an argument that it is. I would disagree with that argument, but you could make that argument. And so in that context, he feels able to do these things because he's like, it's an emergency, and the president has special emergency powers.
There's strong. I mean, I feel like they have a lot of things that can help them win cases against like any lawsuits brought against them because of the fact that mandated vaccines is nothing new, and the Supreme Court ruled that it was already within their right to do so. And then like he did give you the out of being like tested, so it's not like he's saying you got to get jabbed, so that is a big point of the conversation, that does get glossed over because it's not the inflammatory headline, obviously, but he did give you an out. It's a very inconvenient out. It's whatever, but it isn't out, as far as I'm concerned. So,
yeah, and it's not like they're going to charge you. Like if you work for, Kroger or Del Hayes or one of these major like grocers or something like that, and you're adamant that you don't want to get vaccinated, once a week, at no cost to you other than the physical discomfort, they're going to swab your nose.
But how often do we talk about discrimination against women because they could get pregnant and be out of the workforce for an extended period of time or something like that, right? And then that's one of the caveats people say to why they get paid less or get passed over for opportunities and stuff. How long before a business starts discriminating against you because you're unvaccinated?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
once a week you got to leave work to go get a test or something.
I don't even think it'll be like that. It's not going to be anything work related. He said he's going to give you paid time off to go get vaccinated,
right,
but not to go get tested.
No, not to get
so
tested.
you're going to have to go get tested off clock.
On your own time.
Yeah, so whenever you, like on your way to work on Monday or something, you're going to have to leave 30 minutes early to go to the Walgreens and get a test and then bring that test to them with the results or some shit like that. Like, it's not going to be something that you do at work.
Which, of course, then just leads you to be like, like a lot of people have a hard time showing up work on time anyways,
Some people don't even have fucking cars.
You show up on time. Yeah, you know what I mean? You ride the bus and you gotta ride the bus another 2 hours. Anyways, you show up without your COVID test 2-3 times, then what are they going to do? They're just going to fire you?
And the fining, have you heard about the fines?
Whoa!
14 grand.
14 grand per violation per week.
That's insane.
Per week. So there's not going to be any, if I'm going to put on my capitalist hat now, just straight greedy capitalist, I'm firing everybody that's not getting vaccinated because I'm not going to risk losing $14,000 a week on the idea that you may or may not go get this test.
Not in the middle of a labor shortage.
No, yeah, that's another really interesting aspect about this is that it's about to really exacerbate that problem because
it's like a headlock and now he's giving you a noogie on
yeah, like
it's just like you
hey,
got a workforce shortage.
I know that you businesses are having really hard times hiring people because we happen to be giving people money for nothing, but I just thought I'd make it a little bit harder on you guys.
Yeah,
just to see how you react.
Yeah,
it's like
we got a lot more move. We got a lot more money for nothing coming too.
Yeah,
and not even just from the federal government. Amazon came out and was like, all of our employees will pay for their college.
Oh, sick.
Really? That's badass.
Yeah. Fucking brilliant.
That's amazing.
Actually, I mean, that's crazy. I joined the military for that benefit. I had to go to war to get that. So just to be able to move some boxes and you get free college, that shit.
Well, I mean, you got to work for them, probably full time. So
you're,
probably full time. There's probably some caveats to it. So,
sure.
I mean, have you ever tried to work? I mean, you probably have. 36 hours to 44 hours a week and go to school full time enough to maintain a scholarship.
To go to school.
Well, I'm just saying, it's a difficult bar to clear. I did it for 2.5 years, and I would say my last 2 semesters it got to be too much.
Sure.
Because I was working,
especially as hard as Amazon's working you.
I was gonna say that too. I wasn't working nearly as hard as an Amazon warehouse employee.
But you feel like this is an anti-benefit or something? Or?
No, I'm saying the idea that our workforce is already strained, with federal handouts or the improved or the expanded social safety net. Now that Amazon's also saying you can go to school in your free time too. How many people are going to get that degree from Amazon and be like, peace, I'm going to get a way better job that pays me more, or I don't have to work physical labor.
Yeah, they will. I mean, I'm pretty sure Amazon's hoping that you will do that and then move up within their company is what I assume that they would hope. But
actually, their turnover is something like 120% or something like that every year, annual.
Wow.
So it's like that. I think it's
probably a pull to keep people in. Like you said, they probably have they have a constraint where you have to work for us for X amount of time, and then you can start to accrue benefits and stuff. So it's not as if you work for us for 4 years and then on the back end we'll give you $250,000 to go to Stanford. It's hey, you'll start accruing benefits that you can put towards college tuition. So and so. Yes, I mean, is it the same as them being we're going to pay for every employee's college day one, no matter what? No. But are they going to pay a little bit? A little bit's better than nothing.
Yeah, let's see what they're saying here. To pay college fees of $750,000.
Amazon has offered to pay the cost of college tuition fees for 750,000 of its frontline workers, the latest move by a major U.S. company to offer perks to attract and retain staff amid a labor shortage. The company is investing $1.2 billion in the scheme by 2025, and said it would cover the cost of college tuition fees and textbooks for U.S. hourly staff after 90 days of employment for as long as they remain at Amazon.
Oh, wow. So it's like included in their regular benefits package where, after 90 days of probationary, testing, you start getting health care and everything. Now they're going to start, it's like a GI Bill.
It's really sick. I mean, and it does seem to work to their effect, because if you are somebody who's trying to work your way through a degree, which a lot of people are, there's a lot of people who are working their way through college too, that you're in for 4 years. You got them for 4 years of employment, which is probably, they're probably having a hard time just getting past the 90-day mark at this point at 120%. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's a good incentive. It's cool. I like to see it out of private businesses more than I like to see it out of government.
Man, I want to
only because the Amazon people aren't taking my money against my will to do that.
For it.
Well, I just want to derail it because I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, that's a great plan, and it just leads me down this other thread where it's like, did you guys see the picture of the new Amazon warehouse that's in
Tijuana?
Mexico, in Tijuana?
Really?
It's the most dystopian shit ever.
Really?
It's literally Idiocracy. You remember the shot in Idiocracy where they come over the hill of trash and they see the magnificent Costco in the distance? It's literally the same thing. It's a favela with a Amazon warehouse built in the middle of it.
Where it's Taiwan?
It's Tijuana. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. This is so interesting to me, mostly because I saw this on Reddit, and the people in the comments were making the points that you were basically, which is it's super dystopian, and look how crazy this is. In these slums, you have this really nice, vibrant Amazon building. And they were talking about how dystopian it looks. And I'm like, yeah, it looks fucking crazy right now. But come back in 20 years and tell me what that neighborhood looks like afterwards.
Okay.
What if there's no houses there?
Yeah.
Well, if it's all Amazon warehouses, then it'll look worse. But I'm willing to bet that the majority of people who are going to get jobs at that warehouse live in these favelas. Yeah. Why would you not?
100%.
So if that's the case, then all of these people who live in these favelas outside of this Amazon warehouse, their lives are going to improve drastically.
By 25 cents an hour. Is
that not an improvement?
It's a win some, you lose some, like you give and you take. It's like, yeah, they're going to scoop up all of that cheap, unskilled labor and make our packages come faster. But are those people's lives working for that mega corporation going to be better off in the long run? We don't really.
That's
know.
why I said we got to look back in 20 years.
Yeah.
You'll know in 20 years.
If Amazon were to take American workforce policies or all the things that we have that create a safe and stable workforce and then bring those to Mexico, then I would say this is brilliant, right? But they could just be moving there to exploit those people because they live like this,
Yeah,
so
if this was China or something and we had the ability to go build an Amazon warehouse in rural China and just get slave labor to work it, it's
like if they're gonna pay them $10 an hour or something, by all means, it's gonna be great for the Tijuana economy. And like you said, I would expect some suburbs to pop up all around this Amazon.
If they're gonna pay them,
chances are they're gonna go over there and they're gonna pay them the wages that are already offered to them.
If they pay them anything more than what they're getting paid now, it's a benefit.
Sure.
And so that's why, people talk about the Apple buildings in China where they make the phones and how much, suicide, they had to put up nets and everything. And they make it seem like it's like a sweatshop thing. But those people, the Apple pays them more than majority of the jobs that they can find in those areas. So it's like, yeah, they may not be getting $15 an hour like you could in America, but that's also why your iPhone's not $3,000. Because they can pay those Chinese workers more than they would get otherwise, but less than you get.
Yeah, I would say it kind of boils down to that point of like a human rights thing. Are they going to treat these workers in a way that we would consider fair?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I would hope. Yeah.
Are they coming to help or are they coming to exploit? And that is still a big if, because Amazon, from what I hear, I don't know, but it seems like they're into the idea of exploiting their workers to the max, know? And now you're taking them in a place where they have way less laws to abide by. It's just like I said, it could be a huge help. It could be, or it could be a huge hindrance.
Well, they're sending me mixed signals here. What are you? Are you the coal mine that's for that's going to a poor rural area and getting people to do this job that's going to ultimately be a negative impact on their life? Or are you the guys that are going to give everybody free education? I'm getting mixed signals from you, Jeff Bezos.
Thought experiment. If he comes in, he builds that, and then he also develops an entire subdivision around it for his employees and stuff to live in. You feel better or worse about it?
I think if he lifts that area out of poverty, that's just like a net positive, right?
Yeah.
But like if they're like living in Amazon houses and stuff, like, you know, like,
I see where you're going with this because it's like, do we want private corporations going into countries and creating their own little mini countries?
you know,
Because I mean,
like
it's
if
not
he gives them
far-fetched.
the wealth to build themselves out of poverty, that's cool to me.
It's like,
But
welcome
if
to the
he-
country of Venezuela, sponsored by Amazon. You know?
Well, so
Amazon
wait.
brings you Colombia.
So wait, what are you exactly talking about? Are you
You're
talking
fired.
about?
You need to get out of your house
if-
by the end of the month.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so you're saying like housing provided by Amazon that you're allowed to live in while you work there?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Better than a fucking hut with a corroded steel roof.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's yours or it belongs to Amazon, if you're living in a better house as long as you live in Amazon, I'm all for it.
Coming from a place where they fed me, watered me, lived me, and worked me, I would not choose to do that again. Hence why I moved to the private contracting sector where
Well,
I was
yeah,
like,
you
keep
work
me
for the
benefits,
American
I'll
military.
keep my freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you keep your house. It's cool. I appreciated that BAH. It was dope.
And also, let's not forget
I'm not going to give them
that the Mexican government approved this.
Oh, they
It's
wanted
not
it,
like
100%.
like Amazon snuck over the
Snuck in
border
there.
and then built an entire fucking
The
warehouse.
the notably just and uncorrupt Mexican government completely.
I'm not saying anything about the Mexican. I mean, this uncorrupted Mexican government
Yeah, I was
just
just making
approved
that.
abortions for everybody.
Yeah,
so
I was
it's
just
like-
making the joke that, you know,
They
like,
did do that, which was cool.
yeah.
which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't stating your position. I
No,
was
you're
just
making a joke. I'm
that,
just-
like, the Mexican government, like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was on the up and up. Everything the Mexican
What we're not
government
gonna
does
know
on
is
the
that
up and up.
all of our
$12
Amazon
billion?
packages. What we're not knowing is that all of our Amazon packages are gonna be laced with drugs now. Like there's gonna be like a box on the outside of the box, and it's just gonna have
Turned
cocaine
into a
lined
little
all
round-
around it.
Turned into a little ring. I could see that.
We're gonna see, like, you remember when there was the flooding in New York and they saw like the Grubhub delivery guy like waiting with your order like through it
Yeah.
with his bike, and we're gonna see people crossing over the Rio Grande with Amazon packages stacked on their head.
That's so funny.
It's like what
and
it's the
fucked up.
classic of
It's
like,
fucked up and funny at the same time.
what is the convenience worth to you? You know, and like people get that option now on Amazon where it's like, do you want it tomorrow for the same price as having it 2 days from now, but 2 days from now it'll be less boxes.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes, yeah, sure, I'll wait the extra 2 days. But sometimes it's like, no, man, I want
it
that
to me
fucking
now.
shit. Give it to
Fuck
me
the
now.
goddamn
Fuck the
environment.
boxes. Give me it in 4 boxes.
But you know, the argument here, or the conversation here, will be like, good for the Mexican people, shitty for the American people. That's what they're gonna say. Is you're moving the jobs overseas. You know, it's like whatever. You know.
Don't you care about them?
Yeah, you know
Don't
what
you
I mean?
want
Like,
them to
don't
have
you
good
want them
jobs?
To have good jobs too. Don't you like cheap shit? I thought you liked cheap shit. All right.
Well, it's so funny that many people who say those kinds of things are the same people who would not work at Amazon warehouses. Like the people who are like, you're shipping all of our jobs over. And it's like, yeah, but you weren't going to take that job anyways. So what does it matter?
The same assholes that.
Such a salient point.
Yeah,
Like,
they're the
you're
same
absolutely
motherfuckers that are
right.
like, Mexicans come over here and taking our jobs. No, they're working in the fields because you can't.
Yeah,
because
they're
you
they're plumbing
physically
your house
are
because you
unable to-
literally do not
disability,
know
you
how.
know? You're like
Yeah, they're
being like,
plumbing the
"They're taking
hair
my
out of
job."
your fucking drain because your dumbass didn't go to trade school and
Yeah.
got a fucking arts degree.
Yeah.
On God.
Welcome to America, where people
fucking
still have to dig ditches and throw away garbage.
But that's a private safety net, so let's talk about the old governmental safety
Before we
net
move to that, I want to make a quick point
Oh,
about
hit it.
we were talking about Biden using his federal authority, you know, and kind of using the OSHA arm to like strong arm something, but with the emergency powers. I remember when Trump was trying to use those same kind of emergency act powers to build the wall, to fund building the wall, and that was a huge pushback from Democrats. They were like, you are not going to take federal funds and allocate them, or even state funds and allocate them to build a wall because you think it's an emergency. Like he declared an emergency, and it was like, you sent National Guard troops down there because of the migrant caravan. What happened to that migrant caravan? I'm pretty sure they all just stayed.
Yo, they was wearing Nike shoes and shit. You remember I think we debunked that here on the show where we were looking at the pictures of those people and they look like paid actors, like migrating into.
There was the guy handing out money at the
You
thing.
know
It was
what I mean? Like,
people wanted
$100 to be a paid migrant. You know, like it looks sketch. It looks sketch. They had like,
But
a lot.
I mean,
of
there's
stuff.
a lot going down at the
There
border.
was a
I
lot
wouldn't
of stuff.
necessarily. I wouldn't say that it's a emergency where the president could start shifting federal funding to it, but like Oh, it's a lot of people coming across that border, and it's so weird too. Like we watched that video of like a lot of them were like middle-aged Haitian men. And it's like, where are all these Haitians coming from? Like, why are they in Mexico?
Haiti's mad fucked.
I know Haiti's mad fucked, but it's like, it's so interesting.
It's hard to get across the ocean, but it's easy to like jump to Mexico and then walk your
way up. Yeah, but I just thought that it was really interesting because a lot of the people were like, we need to let these women and children in, but then you look at the line and it's like 85% Haitian males.
Yeah,
and it's like, there's not a lot of women and children in that line. Now, I don't know. Maybe the women and children were already let in first, and so that's why it's all the dudes at the end. I don't know. But they are just letting people in,
remember
which
when
is really
they were
weird.
like, it's all MS-13.
I do remember
flooded with gangs.
Yeah.
It's like, where's all the
that.
MS-13 murder?
That's what they always say.
Yeah.
So,
I do remember. Although they just...
A lot of projecting onto like these people of like what your bias is towards them. You're like, they're all rapists.
What you think
murderers.
about Mexicans, yeah.
Oh, if you look on Fox News and just like search like, let me look up illegal immigration and crime, and it's just gonna be guys with face tattoos like MS-13 murders white kids.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
and I think the problem is that most people don't look at the nuance of it, and it's like we need to get a control on the border not because it's all MS-13 people, but because they can hide out in the regular people that we're letting in, and that's why they want like a. If I'm trying to steel man their argument, like we want to have a system where we can check people out before they come in, which I'm not necessarily against. It just depends on how you do that system.
Yeah, I want a system that assimilates people into our workforce and gets them paying tax dollars and gets them to be productive members of our society.
The way I see it, if you can scrape and claw your way here, and you can find some way to stamp 2 feet on this bitch. You're in this bitch, you know?
Yeah,
and that's just because that's how it's worked since the dawn of time. Like, America is a place that you just find your way to, and then it's yours. You know, like, none of us had to, wasn't nobody signing no checkpoints getting off the Mayflower or anything like that. Like, wasn't nobody, it just not like that, So, I like, like a little vetting process. That's great. But if you also get your ass around the back door and find some way in, then you're in.
This segue.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, we got to go hunt them down.
There'd be people out here like that. They'd be like, yo, we need to find them all and like get them out. I'm like, yo, that's
not only are there
American
people like that, there are people that go to the border that are ex-military.
Oh yeah,
they are obsessed with.
Oh
it.
yeah,
I went down that YouTube rabbit hole, my man, and it's just like
they're fucking LARPers.
It's so LARPing. It's the LARPiest LARPing I've ever seen because they're like in full on regalia, like this is Afghanistan or
like
Iraq.
They're breaking into the Washington.
They are SEAL Team 6. They are in Pakistan landing in a compound trying to get Osama bin Laden's porn. Like they're in there trying to fucking. It's ridiculous.
This makes no
sense.
And
they're like they're not shooting people. They're not injuring anyone or hurting anyone or stopping anyone. They're literally in this full gear with binoculars. Like, yep. You can tell that somebody was
over here, boss. They're over here. That's all they're doing.
And it's like, what are we doing? What is this land nav practice?
Yeah.
That's all you're doing out there. Yeah. And it's like they have it in their head. As long as they're not
shooting people, I don't give a shit. Like, if that's what you want to do with your free time, you want to just go out there and tattletale on your fellow human beings, like whatever, dude. It's hot out there.
But
like,
I mean,
what you want to do is sweat out there.
This really does kind of segue into the next conversation, though, because we're talking about illegal immigration and them coming in and joining our workforce. And like I said, I would like for them to be a part of like our contributing to society members of society, not the on the government teat members of society, which that's a classic example of one of those things where people told me my whole life, like, illegal immigrants, they can't get food stamps. They most certainly can. Because if you have children in your household who aren't getting the proper nutrition, you don't have to prove that the parents in the household are here legally. You just have to be like, yeah, I've got parents. And you can get food stamps for that. And it's like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's a large number of people, illegal immigrants do receive some sort of like basic food. Which I'm not necessarily against. I would like for them to be tax-paying citizens. Sure, but I'm not against people who need the social safety net using the social safety net. But that does segue into the conversation. I wanted to talk about the $3.5 trillion budget that the House of Representatives is currently not really wanting to bring to the table because it doesn't do enough expansion of the social safety net. And the proposed expansions of the social safety net are something that, as soon as I looked at them, I was like, man, I am all for all of this. Like, I am so all for it. I don't know how all this happens. I'm not an economist, but when you say like, paid leave for childbirth for mothers and fathers.
The only thing that comes to my mind is Money Machine Go Burr.
Yeah, Money Machine Go Burr.
Yeah, that's how it happens. I mean, you want to talk about the economics of how
only-
$3.5 trillion gets spent to make a new social safety net? Money printing.
Like, I love the idea of expanding a social safety net. Like, I'm into that shit, you know, like, and this is where, like, I don't know if you guys are ever following, like, my government ideologies sway back and forth to both sides. You know, like, I love certain things about a Democratic ideology and I love certain things about a Republican. That's kind of why I fall in the libertarian category. But this is one of those places because I'm a very what's it called when you care about people, empathetic person, right? And so I really want everybody out here to have as easy a possible time in life as they can, right? Like as most people that can get that. But as Mac always points out, it's like how we get to that is always like the caveat to that situation. So it's like, you know, I would love to see more people be able to get food stamps, get child care, like all these things, you know, because I do think that, I mean, that's why we created school in the first place, right? So you can get out there and you can work, right? We'll take your kids, we'll raise them to be little workers, and you go out and you just do the work, you know? So, like, the more people we can get that for, the better. Of course, it opens you up to exploitation and all those things, whatever, but that's just the good with the bad, you know, type situation. But $3.5 trillion after already spending three-something trillion dollars, you know, that we just throwing out a lot of trillions.
No,
and I'm
it's a
like,
lot of
where
trillions.
are y'all finding all these T's? Like, trillions is hard to come by out here. You know what I mean? Like, where are y'all finding all these trillions of dollars?
Yeah, my personal thoughts on this is it's very interesting. Like, as someone who believes that taxation is theft because you can't decide what the tax money goes to, I wouldn't support this on its own, but here's a deal I would take today. If you came to me and you said, we're going to take this $3.5 trillion and it's going to be paid for by shifting money from the military budget to pay for all this, I'd take that deal today.
100%.
I would much rather the forcible removal of my own money go towards helping other people get food and childcare and stuff than to build bombs. But I don't want you to forcibly take my money. As someone who believes in the power of community charities and stuff like that, I would rather see privately funded organizations do all of these things. I want all of these things to still happen. I just don't want the government to force you to pay for things that you may not want to pay for.
Well, I would say a lot of this money and subsidies and stuff like that for a lot of these social safety net programs is probably going to end up in the hands of people who run daycare centers, other private things like charter schools. We're going to see a lot of, like, you know, one of the big things they say is pre-K and daycare, and then after like kindergarten and on. So they're talking about expanding to where if you are a new mother and you want to get back to the work, they want you to get back to work. So they're going to say, yeah, we'll give a subsidy to your local daycare center. You choose your daycare or whatever, or you pick from a list of pre-approved ones. It's the same thing they did with healthcare.
Yeah.
It's the same thing they did with
Medicare
all these
for
other
childcare.
like public education, prisons. They did it with prisons, where it's like transferring money from the federal government into the hands of private companies.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I have against that is the subsidy part, is that they're going to take people's money from them, filter it through the government, skim a little bit off the top while it goes through the system, and then give it to private organizations to fund the daycares or whatever. And all I'm saying is that the very beginning part where you take people's money against their will is the part that I don't fuck with.
Well, you talked about charitable organizations, and it's like,
You have to willingly give your money to those organizations. The government taking your tax money and then funding it to all sorts of programs, even if I agree with those programs, the people that they're taking the money from may not agree.
I always wonder about this, though. Like, where do you draw the line? Because, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure the tax system is some type of highway robbery left over from the feudal system and all that stuff. But at the same time, it does take collective money to run a country. You know, like, countries do have to do things, you know? And so it's like, you know, I feel you, but sometimes I feel like you stand on that principle of, like, don't take my money without actually thinking of the logistics of, like, how does the nation actually run without any type of funding. Like, and my question being is, and this would have to be a science experiment, I don't know, but, like, how altruistic are people? You know, like I said, I gave $10 to Wikipedia the other day, but I've been using Wikipedia for like 7 years, and I've never thought not once about giving them $1. And they were being extremely beneficial to my life, and it took me 7 years to be like, I give you a little tenner.
Yeah, go have a coffee on me.
You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if we lived in a system like that where we only depended on, I mean, it seems to work for the Christian church, so I don't know.
And yet Wikipedia still goes.
Yeah.
That's the point, though, is like, even though you personally only ever gave $10 in the amount of years that you've used Wikipedia, still Wikipedia goes.
But they don't seem like they're happy, though. I mean, they're begging.
Well, it's also like, you know, if the thought experiment, if no one paid any taxes to the federal government or the state government or to any entity at all, would our government still exist?
Yeah, like how would it function its roles in society without any income from taxation?
Because I look at our current system and look at everything we've accomplished where I've only had to pay like my what do you call that tax at the grocery store? What's that called?
Sales tax.
I've had to pay sales tax and I've had to pay income tax,
which is like 30%.
That just tells me that you don't know much about how taxes work.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I've paid my taxes and everybody else has paid their taxes, and look what we've I say accomplished, but there's a $700 and something billion government military budget alone. Like our $1,000 a person for all of the 60% of retail workers adds up with the sales tax on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we took all of that out of the system, is there any way to keep a system working?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's an entirely different system. And I think that like one compromise that I'd be willing to take if I was trying to set up because this is extremely idealistic. Like, this is just how I feel about on principle, which is that I don't agree with force of any nature. And so if you can convince people to pay into it, or like because
I don't like that either.
Yeah, well, one thing that I would be more willing to do is if they took all the exact same tax money, like the same amount, the same percentage from me, but I got to decide which programs they go into. Like, if I don't want my tax money to go into the military, then I can opt out of sending my tax money to the military. And I can opt into sending it to food stamps or something like that. If you had more of a say in what it was, and if I didn't distrust my government so much, I would have less of a problem with taxation. It's not taxation itself that I have a problem with. It's the way that the U.S. taxation system works.
Well, the devil's advocate argument to that is we're a representative democracy, so you do get to decide on the representative who makes the decisions on where your taxes
I don't trust that guy, though.
No. I don't either. I agree with you, but I'm saying that's the devil's advocate side of it, is like, we live in a democracy that's not populist.
Well, you want me to explain how my non-taxation system would work in our current governmental system, but it wouldn't. It would have to be a completely different country for what I'm saying to work. That's why I'm saying it's an extremely idealistic idea, because it's never going to happen. It's not like the U.S. is not going to it's going to stop taking taxes. Well, I'm just saying if I was the ruler of the world, I wouldn't take taxes from anybody.
No, I feel you, but then I mean that is hard to apply to a conversation where we're having where they're actually spending $3.5 trillion to do this bill. It's like ideology is great to discuss, but then I guess that was my question is like, how would you institute something like a safety net or like a military defense budget or road, anything that the government does? How would that, solely depending on everybody's free will to give money? I just feel like I don't know if that's necessarily there to the extent where we could be as great of a country as we are.
I think corporations would step in, and we would become
most
an
of
oligarchy.
Most of those things wouldn't. We already are one. Most of those things wouldn't be handled by the government at that point. It would be, you would have a guy who runs like your neighborhood's roads, and you would pay him to keep up your roads. And if he did a bad job, you fire him and get somebody like the neighborhood next to us has got way better roads. We're gonna start going to that guy, and then you just like. Yeah. Keep paying.
For me, more it's the tax structure that I don't like. Like I think taxes serve a purpose. To a certain, and this is what we're always arguing is how much tax is too much and back and forth and blah blah blah. But it's that sliding scale shit for me, and then like we're gonna tax income like workers 35%, but then dividends we're gonna tax those 10%, and it's like dividends outnumber workforce, you know what I mean? Like that seems like a fucking skewed scale to me. So that's why I get really hung up on it. But my point still is taxes aren't paying point for another $3.5 trillion on top of what we've already spent, on top of our $800 billion defense budget. Like that's I would rather you tax me right? Because the economics at least hold up in the taxation.
Well, they are. They're just taxing you with inflation.
Right.
It's just going to be a late term tax.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's a off the books tax because, a lot of people think that this $3.5 trillion is just going to get printed and then that's just that. But that's not just that. Yeah. That's what it's doing is it's devaluing the dollars that you already have. Yeah. Simple as that. And so that's a tax.
I mean, there are certain things that kind of could help foot that bill. I mean, I saw articles talking about new corporate taxes that are going to be coming down. So, I mean, like maybe if Amazon pays taxes, we could see that going like...
But why would they do that?
If the laws change.
Especially when you can just move
but this is what's so funny about the people that I see that always want to raise taxes, and I don't know if I've made this point on the podcast before.
Enforce
but
in this case.
I have definitely made it to you guys in private, which is just that I find it funny that no matter how many people that I see advocating for higher taxes for rich people or higher taxes for corporations, I've not met one single person that paid the maximum amount that they could pay to the federal government when they file their own taxes.
I'm not saying higher. I'm saying enforce. Make them pay
the rules of the taxes are what they are, and Amazon gets around them because they're in the rules. Amazon's not doing anything illegal.
To my other point that I was just saying too about that, like you said, ain't nobody willingly giving their money to the government. So if taxes weren't a thing, then we'd definitely be out here starving. I've never seen anybody give their fucking surplus back.
Yeah, this would expose how little people actually care about the things that they say that they care about, and it would force us as a society to take a closer look at what we value and change our culture to reflect those things. Because right now you can just make your neighbors pay for the shit that you care for. It's easy. It's easy to care for it. But when you got to foot the bill, it's much more difficult. And you're right. If there was a transitionary period to go from what we have now to what I would prefer, it would be extremely messy. And lots of people would have to go through lots of different hardships and struggles before we figured out how it would actually work. And before people realize like, oh, we really need to come together out here.
All I could think of is like trying to institute communism and being like, yeah, it's going to be messy. Millions of people will die. But at the end, we get our protopian society that we want, and I'm not saying that that's what would happen. I'm just saying like it brought to me the reality of like, damn, our government probably will never change because this transition will be messy. Yeah. And
nobody wants
how messy, nobody really knows. Like,
depends on how you change it.
Super messy. Or it could be like, it's a little hardship. I mean, a little recessionary time that we made a transition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that any of these major things changing would cause huge repercussions. Like if Amazon paid all their taxes, if big corporations paid a fair share of taxes, we're talking huge changes to our economy, huge changes to the amount of people they hire. They wouldn't be fucking giving you free education for 750,000 workers if they had to pay their fair share of fucking taxes.
And you certainly wouldn't be getting free same-day delivery.
Yeah, of course not. Like they would be huge.
And this is the problem when it comes to corporate taxes. Like corporations don't pay taxes. Even if you make it, even if you could set up the taxation code in a way that didn't allow Amazon to get through all these loopholes to where they don't pay taxes, they're just going to increase their prices. Yeah. They're just going to cut their wages. Yeah. Corporations do not pay taxes because they can shift that through pricing, wages, benefits. They will shift all of that to the employees and to the people.
Because the bottom line is profit.
The bottom line is what they care about.
We're trying to maintain this much profit, and we will shift all other parameters to make sure that profit margin
That's
stays
why they
where it
killed
needs to be.
unions.
Yeah.
That's why they killed unions. Yeah. Because what you're saying, like if they raised the corporate tax rate, they actually had to pay their fair share, and then they tried to cut wages, raise prices, all those things, the unions would stand up and be well, then we're not going to work for you, so you're just going to crumble.
Right.
But since nobody can unionize, well, except for federal workers, they can unionize.
Plenty of people can unionize if the corporation allows unions.
You know what?
The only problem is that the people at the top of the corporations don't seem to think that it's very viable to them.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a good.
You can have benefits. If we let you have benefits.
We'll decide the benefits. You don't need to decide the benefits.
You can have unions.
You don't think that it's in the right of the corporation to decide what benefits it's going to give you?
No, I think it's cool, but I wouldn't mind if the workforce got to have some type of say in that too.
Yeah. They do, based on who works for what company. If nobody wants to work for your company because you give shit benefits, that's them deciding.
But so you see collusion, yes or no, between the other big corporate heads and the government. but then it's not cool for the workers to collude against them. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying it's not.
It's illegal.
What's illegal?
For
talk
the
about
workers
if you go into any of these major corporations and you work for them and you say the word union or mention unionizing, they can fire you on the spot.
That's not illegal. That's just them firing you. You no longer have an at-will employment contract with that place.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, but it's like if there was never unions, right, then we'd still have children in coal mines.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So unions, de facto.
I'm not saying that unions are bad.
Well, that's the thing, though, is like they've essentially outlawed unions in the workplace.
Yeah, because it was definitely like you said, if you have any chance to stomp out your opposition, you will, right? Like if we could just shut the fuck up China real quick, we would do it. You know what I mean? So I definitely see why the corporations brought the hammer down on these guys that were affecting.
They didn't want to give them benefits or rights.
Run the show. But. I'm saying like, yeah, I get that they're working on an incentive program and it's at will and it's like, well, you don't have to work here or anything like that. That's great. But I also feel you like in a sense, like, I think that they won because they're the bigger bullies, but not because they're right. Like
no,
they just,
I would
they
love
had
for
the power to make the rules.
Yeah.
And so they made them in their favor, but that I would say is one of the big problems.
I mean, that's what everybody does, because that's what the union workers are doing. They're not making the rules in the benefit of them and the corporation. They're only thinking about themselves.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because the whole time, but I was just thinking this point. I was just like, as we're talking about this social safety net, and now we're seeing all these democratic policies come to fruition right on the backs. And I've never been as involved in politics as I am now, mostly because of the podcast and stuff. So. I'm not any happier with anything I'm seeing Biden do that I was happy. Like I said, if Trump was here, we'd be going to war, or Republicans in general was like going to war, doing these things. And I'm like, I don't fuck with that. And then I come over here and he's like, print money to help the poor and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't fuck with that. And I'm like, damn, like this is what it's like. This is what it's like to live in a democratic union where you're just probably just not going to agree. Like, I don't agree with the life choices of really anybody but myself. You know what I mean? Like, I look at
otherwise you would have made those choices.
You do,
yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I would never do this shit. Like, what the fuck is this motherfucker doing over here? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I see that now working on a grand scale. It's just funny how no president can finish with a positive approval rate. It's like we just not gonna be happy with the situation. Doesn't matter what you try and do.
And like
Ronald
this
Reagan did.
I mean, okay.
Well, I mean, there's been plenty of presidents.
How many presidents are there?
Was there instant information exchanging where 11-year-olds talking about mandates that happened yesterday?
No, I was just saying that that's not a true statement. Like, there have been presidents that ended their terms, whether one or two, that had very high approval ratings.
With the caveat of
the percentage is low.
Yeah, and also with the caveat of it was just a different time. They did everything that came on your TV was the news you got. That was it.
Yeah, much more controlled situation. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, you ask anybody, they're most likely unhappy with what their government's doing, regardless of if it's a blue or a red government.
This is a government of compromise, and it sounds like a good idea at first, but then you realize that the people in government aren't compromising. They're doing exactly what they want to do. You're the one compromising.
Damn, big point. Big point.
And the people that run our government, a.k.a. the corporations, they're not compromising.
Nobody's compromising out here except for the people.
Yeah.
That's the only people compromising in our government.
That's so true.
I would say that we see a light compromise of like this democratic budget thing that we're seeing, this $3.5 trillion. It's got a little Bernie flavor to it. It's got a little Bernie sauce on it. That would not have been there if Bernie didn't create the sauce and, well, not create the sauce, but bring the sauce to the masses.
Yeah, like he really kind of infused the Democratic Party with this idea of like
Medicare for all. That was something I'd never heard of before Bernie. Now we're talking about in this $3.5 trillion, like extending Medicare to cover dental and to cover these other things, which is like, that's a big deal. It's not necessarily saying public option because it's Biden's. Biden isn't going to give you a public option, but it's close, man. It's like we're creeping along this train.
Good old incrementalism.
Now, you know what I hate to see, though? This is what sucks. It's funny that we're talking about these two subjects back to back, because today's hero is tomorrow's villain. Because if he was able to use Medicare as a a reach. Like say, well, I have federal power over you now because you get federal money. I mean, they just got your kids 3 to 5 years old with that free pre-K, and it's like, oh, you like that free pre-K? Well, you better do what I say, because if you don't, well, I'll take that away.
Better get your baby vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. You better get vaccinated. You better, and it sucks. Like like that's the problem a lot of times with any type of handout. And I don't mean to call it a handout. Like, but any like when the government gave me thousands of dollars because it's a pandemic, it seems helpful. At the same time, it's like all it did was put new Jordans on my feet. Like. I guess what I'm just saying is like with handouts come like leverage, now you depend on those people to give you that, and they have some type of control or PowerPoint over you where they can say, well, if you like that incentive that I give you, you better do what I say.
Well, that's why they've kind of branded this entire talk about, I called it expanding the social safety net, but the headlines call it cradle to grave.
Yeah, seen that. Yeah,
because that's essentially
to take care of you from that.
I mean, it's everything. It's extending the child tax credit. So now it's giving you money for the rest of your life, until this kid turns 18. Yeah. Like there's
letting you keep your own money.
Is it gonna fix Social Security?
Yeah. Like we could have the principal talk about taxation and theft again, but yeah, it's the same concept.
Is it gonna fix Social Security though? Because like the last time they tried to help you to the grave, it's already fucked. So like
only one generation made it to the grave with any of the money they put in it.
So I hope that 3.5 trillion is supposed to last for a little while. Like, is this gonna help the next 10 years, or is this?
Isn't the thing with Social Security too? They keep saying like it's gonna be bankrupt. It's going away. It's coming up. It's gonna happen soon. Hey, keep paying attention. Yeah. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, it hasn't happened yet because the baby boomer generation is just now getting to the point where they're gonna start putting the stress on it. You gotta understand, like baby boomers are like the largest generation we've seen in like ages.
That's why COVID came around to kill them all. No.
We did make that joke though. I was like, this is nature thinning the herd.
Yeah,
let's not act like we're not getting overpopulated out here, guys.
This was the Social Security Department coming in and being like, we need a way to get rid of all these old people.
I'd rather nature decide than the government decide who needs to stay and who needs to go. But anyways, these programs, they are holding up, and they might hold up forever. Like you said, those are all theories, just like it was a theory when we started it. But a lot of these things, we act like, as soon as that law gets signed, it's de facto taken care of. Boom. Like,
don't need to worry about it anymore.
I mean? I love to bring up that point. I told my mom, I was like, you realize you're the first generation to ever use a 401k? Like, you feel like that shit's like solid in the books, but we've never seen that. Same thing I was bringing up with the vaccine. Like, it's like, you'd be like, this solid, locked down. We signed it. We approved it, stamped it, but you ain't seen it in the real world. I was watching a thing that said the efficacy, and I hate to bring it back to the vaccines, but the efficacy was like 95% in controlled testing with 44,000 people. You unleash it on 7 billion, all of a sudden that bitch dropped to like 40%. It's like the variables change dramatically in the real world. Just like I saw some.
It's like polls.
I was just about to bring up some poll. They were like, we polled 2,200 people, and they are a fan of this mandate. And I was like, bitch, 2,200 people? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
That's like the thing where they said
begin to approach the.
I wish I could remember the exact numbers. Like something like 56% of all Republicans believe QAnon, and I was like, out of the fucking 2,000 people you called in fucking Harrisburg, South Carolina.
And asked, do you want to talk about QAnon? Like, of course, they were like, hell yeah. Like, so it's just such my point being is, they run these models of being like, this social safety net's going to do X, Y, Z, and this social security programs do X, Y, all these things. But until we get out there and motherfuckers start taking that money and it starts, we see how it works, you just don't really know. So, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I don't know if Social Security is going to go bankrupt. I don't know if it works or not, but I know that the evidence is not sufficient that it does, and then
there is no evidence.
And them rolling out another $3.5 trillion at just like hope this works.
I know it's hard to put economics aside, but economics aside, do you think that giving American students 2 free years of community college in this expansion, is that a good thing?
It's a good thing for the student. It's a good thing for me. Yeah.
What about society as a whole? Is it a good thing for a more educated population?
I would say yes. I mean, I think at the detriment of the school, like I don't know if the school's still getting their nut or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, the school's still getting their money.
Yeah, well then, I think it's great.
They're going to get paid. It's instead of the student paying for it, it's going to be everybody.
I will say this as a principle matter, right? You tend to value things less when you don't have to work for them. Like things that are given to you, like people in this country love to take their freedom for granted. Love to. It's just like, oh, it's like the most, you know what I mean? Like they just act like this shit just, I was born free, bitch. And this and that. I was like, there's a lot of fighting, a lot of like things that went down so that you could create this little bubble
specifically
of freedom.
In America.
You know what I mean?
Like, take your ass over to England and try to be like, I'm free.
It's like, it's wild. But because you're born into it, our wealth. Like I said, you know how many times people talk about like poverty in America and all this stuff, or like there's poverty and there's not. I'm like, bitch, the world poverty is like $1 a day. Like you can't even fathom it because you just never really experienced it. Mm-hmm. So my point is things that have been handed, but then now talk to somebody who came out the Great Depression. You know what I mean? Like look at how they view wealth and stuff. It's different. These motherfuckers like every penny matters. Yeah. And you're like, nah, toss that shit around.
Literally, people throw change in the street.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they'd be like, but these motherfuckers were the ones picking it up because it just. So I'll say that, like, just all economics aside and everything, like having free. Look at the kid who goes to college on his daddy's dime versus the kid who's working their way through college. Who takes that situation more seriously? Who's really trying to gain the benefit out of that more seriously? And I don't want to, blanket everybody. I know that there's a couple out there who appreciate it and all that stuff, but it just tends to be a lot easier to take things for granted when it comes for free.
I look at it more like the disadvantaged, like coming from a super poor, broken home, no ability whatsoever to pay for their own college is kind of, with a really bad head start in life, given the opportunity to get 2 free years of college, that looks like a positive.
How'd you get to college?
I worked very hard for 6 years in the military, and then they decided to pay for it.
So there's ways to get it, though. You know what I mean? There's ways to get it without, it just being handed to you. Like, now, a lot of those people don't want to do that, because, again, you don't want to make that sacrifice.
Hey, you want free college? Go work for Daddy Warbucks. Go kill some brown people. We'll give you free college.
I feel you. You can work for Amazon now, too. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, there's ways to get it if you want. And let's not act like there aren't grants out here and financial aid. There's a lot of programs already installed to get that to the people who really want it. But for it to just be like a carte blanche, like, all right, you're born, now you get to go to college, like, and I'm not even so sure that college is like that. Like you said, healthcare and all that stuff. I'm more about that. Because healthcare I think is unanimously beneficial. But at the same time, like I said, college gets
not everybody needs to be in college.
Yeah, I don't even like college. Like college is kind of trash to me.
Well, it's not mandatory. It's just like if you want to do 2 years of college, you're not gonna go bankrupt from it.
Yeah, sure. But I just don't know if that's necessarily even a super benefit to your life, Right. Like we've been fed the college story that it is, but the statistics and everything of people coming out with degrees is not like they're getting that much
I would be interested to know, and I would hopefully, this is a hopeful assumption, that trade schools do apply it to some extent, or certification training. Yeah.
I will say personally, anecdotally,
skilled workers is great.
Yeah.
In my own experience, my life is much better now than when I was in college. Now, I didn't finish college, so you could say that it'd be even better if I had finished the college, but I went into college to do graphic design, and I actually dropped out of college and now I get paid to do graphic design. So it's like I really didn't need the college. Yeah. Now, this is the advice that I give anybody if they ask me if I think that they should go to college. It's like if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or any other profession that requires you to legally have some sort of certification, you should get that certification before you start doing that job. Yeah, sure. Do I agree with the certification? That's a whole different discussion.
It's a check mark.
If you have to have it, you should probably get it.
It's kind of like we're talking
anything other than those, fuck college.
Yeah.
Total waste of your time.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. But like we said, it does a lot more than college, right? It's like it's Medicare.
It does a lot of stuff.
It's
and as far as
retirement,
my answer to your question, I hate to make it biblical. I hate to take it to a biblical point, but you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Mm-hmm. You teach a man to fish, you could feed him for a lifetime. Yeah. You teach a man to sell his fish, he could feed his family for generations.
What if you fund his fishing pole?
If you fund the fishing pole, by all means, do whatever you want with your fishing pole.
Well, no, you go up to the water, it's like free fishing poles.
Well, like he's making some good point though. Like I can teach you how to fish, but if you ain't got no fishing pole, it's gonna be hard to fish regardless of how much I taught you. So
look, like I said,
here's a education program. Here's a free pole. This is how you do it.
If you want to take your own money and invest it in somebody else's future, good for you. Yeah. Don't make me do that.
Yeah.
You handle that shit yourself.
And this is kind of where the whole conversation is. Like, it's hard to bring a conversation like social safety nets to you because of your principled stance on, I don't want any of that unless it's coming from charity. Mm-hmm. So like that being a known quantity.
He's saying it's a tired point.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying like with that point being known, like something like daycare, like free daycare to all the workers, like that seems like, yes, I don't the only reason I put that caveat there is because of the payment, the economics. That's why I keep saying that.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Outside of economics, if nobody had to pay for anything and we were just all helping each other on the backs of our compassion and love, I would love anybody who needs daycare or healthcare or college tuition payments. I would love for them to have it, as long as you're not stealing from other people to do that. That's my only thing. And so like that's why I get hung up, because it's like I'm not against any of these policies. I love that they're trying to do this stuff for them. It's just that, and honestly, I'm not against paying taxes to pay for any of this stuff. But it's like I understand how much skimming there goes on. Mm-hmm. I understand how much of the federal budget goes to military and all kinds of other fuck shit that I don't agree with. And I also don't think that the places that the funding gets funneled to are doing the best jobs. So with all of that being in the context, my views change. But just on do I think people who want healthcare should get healthcare? Absolutely. Yeah. Like I would love for that to be the case. It
comes down to the money though.
But yeah, like you can't, like I think anybody
like I love
would
a
tell
Lamborghini.
you that.
Like I would love to have a Lamborghini. Yeah. I'm just not going to pay the price for a Lamborghini, you know what I mean? So it's like, I guess it always comes down back to the money, about like how the money comes, even if you try and take it out of it. Because like you said, it always sounds great in theory, But like as a dad, having child care, like daycare is expensive. It's difficult. Like that is a very hard strain on a young parent, on a new parent. Whatever, because it's like you have to afford the daycare, so you have to work. But then, like, if you have a job that doesn't necessarily afford you the money to pay for it, like puts you in that
treading water. It's classic working poor treading water.
Exactly. And now you're like, Grandma, will you watch my kid for me while I work, and all these things. So it's like, I would love to see you be able to get access to what's already a public option. Like, essentially what it seems like they're expanding is the 12 free years of childcare that you get. We're now going to give you like 14 years of free childcare.
Like 18, because they're talking about up to age 3, being.
But you start preschool at like 4 or 5. Anyway. Like I think you start kindergarten at 5. So
yeah, so they're expanding it by like 3 or 4 more years.
Yeah, like 3 years. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they're saying free pre-K after age 3 and daycare assistance up to age 3. So they're
okay. So
it's cradle to grave.
Yeah, all the way.
So like even if you have like a 6-month-old, they're saying like the government's going to help
subsidize
your daycare.
Daycare, which
see something.
It's hard to hate against. It's hard to hate as a parent. It's hard to hate that. I can't really see any, because
like anybody hates the idea of people getting daycare.
Well, some people probably would, just because a lot of people oppose just on principles, like you said, like I don't want to have to pay for it.
That's what I'm saying. If you remove the economics, all of these things, if people didn't have to actually pay for any of this stuff, which is again why I didn't bring it up, but this is why I don't like calling these things free, because they're not free. Even the people who are receiving the benefits are paying into it. It's not like it's free. But I think that what it comes down to for people is like, I don't know if you could find very many people in America that would be against daycare as a thing. Like, I don't fuck with daycare. You should take care of your own fucking kids or whatever. Like, that seems like that would be really harsh. But I understand when people are like, look, I'm already having trouble doing what I'm doing over here to be paying for other people's kids for their daycare. And so outside of the economics, all of this stuff is amazing. This is great stuff. And I think that this is the kind of country that we'd want to live in. But like our gym has a daycare center in it for people who can't find somewhere to put their kids, but they want to work out and live a healthy lifestyle. So there's a little place where they have people that watch their kids and they play, and it's a whole playroom and stuff like that. Like, I would love to see some more stuff like that. Like the place that you work at has somewhere where the money that they make from the profits that you help them produce is put back into you, helping you by having some place for you to watch your kids, or the way that they do healthcare benefits for you.
I feel like you're throwing that word around. Would love that though. Like, if you love things, then you would make sacrifices for them. So to say, oh, well, we would love to see daycare, but we don't want to pay for it. Well, then that means that you wouldn't really.
I didn't say I would love to see. I said I would love to see the company, like private people making their own decisions is what I would love to see. About daycare, about the military, about everything. Make your own decisions. Deal with your own consequences, whether they be good consequences or bad consequences.
So assuming they're going to print the money anyways, or we're going to pay the taxes anyways, because that is the system in which we live in, like,
I'd rather they go to this.
Yeah, right?
It's a redistribution conversation.
Yeah, I would rather my taxes go to stuff like this than military funding.
Then, like, that.
Yeah, so, and like, talking redistribution, that's what a lot of Republicans were kind of claiming this was, a redistribution of wealth, like a money grab by the Democrats. I see it more as like the Democrats trying to appease the progressive wing of the party.
I mean, this is what their party does. So it's like you said, like infrastructure, social safety net.
What their party does is the Affordable Care Act, which is just fucking transferring funds from the government to private health care because private health care pays the fucking lobbies.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, it is quote unquote what Democrats have been doing, but they've been doing it in a much more corporatist way than what this appears to be.
I'm sure this is all going to be super corporatist.
I
too.
agree.
Well,
I agree.
Like when you get down into the fine print, like you said, it's going to be only approved daycares, only approved services, only the government is going to use the leverage that they've now been given through these policies. It's not like they're just going to hand you all of this stuff. Like, go to any daycare you want. It doesn't have to be certified by the government. We don't have to come in and inspect it, whatever. Because why would they do that? Yeah. They want the control. This is them buying control over you. That's all it is.
This is why people call things like this communism. It's because, like, a lot of people pointed to China. They're like, well, China locked everybody up. When I was like, yeah, they use guns. Like, they be like, yo, we make the decisions. You do what we say. Like, so anytime that you keep handing over all of these powers to your government, eventually they start using those powers against
it also breeds corruption and nepotism. I mean, look at Betsy DeVos, how it's like, oh, how did she become Secretary of Education? Oh, well, she's one of the big charter school private money funders. It's like, well, like, that's nepotism. That's like the same thing with like the prisons and stuff, where it's just like, if you have enough money to fund your own prison, chances are the government's going to find a way to fund that prison for you so you could make money off of it.
Which, once again, John, with the perfect segue into our next topic, which is, funding private cities.
Funding gigantic mega real estate properties.
Cities of the future, as some might call them. I was very interested. I saw this post about how Marc Lore, who is a former Wal-Mart executive, was looking to build this new futuristic tech city in a number of different places. On the website they've earmarked Nevada, Arizona, Texas, I think New Mexico, like places with a lot of open space. And for some reason they seem to be looking at like desert locations. Maybe that's just because that's where like the cheapest land is. Yeah. So that makes sense. Especially, and I mean, Marc Lore is a very good and successful businessman. I think his net worth is like $4 billion or something like that. And I was just really interested in it because it got me thinking about something that we talked about a long time ago at the very beginning of this podcast, which is the concept of protopia, in the sense that we don't have to be stuck between this duopoly of dystopia and utopia, which dystopia is very real and we can see ourselves kind of moving towards that now, and utopia always seems like this unattainable goal where everybody's happy and nobody wants for anything. But we can definitely think about our future in a more positive way. And I think that this is something that people like Marc Lore are doing. And it's really interesting. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he's talking about, but I think that this is a really good example of what I would rather see our society, how I would rather see our society operate, in the sense of people are free to go and try small localized experiments in new ways of operating a community. And then if it works, more people can adopt it. and improve their own societies. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't hurt everybody in the country because you didn't blanket this whole revolution everywhere.
It's not like an $800 million high-speed rail system in California that just gets abandoned.
Yeah. Or just like
statistically speaking, most of those things are going to get abandoned. And if I was going to say if I think that this Telosa city is actually going to exist in the future, I would say no.
But this is also a private enterprise that's undertaking this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in a sense, but it's going to do the exact same thing that Walt Disney did with the whole Disney World thing, where they get taxpayer money to build the foundation of the city.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to privately fund a $400 billion city.
Yeah.
You get the government to do that.
Yeah. But I you bring up a good point. I like that. You know, like you said, like, it's cool. Like, you want to bring communist values or anything like that, right? Instead of just being like, we got the answer, everybody needs to adopt the answer immediately, right? I like that idea of just saying, well, I think I got the answer. I'm going to try it out here in this desert. You know, it's like a cult. You know, like, it's like.
And I was going to mention this earlier. Like, communism, there's a lot of pros to communism.
Of course.
It's not like it's inherently a bad thing.
Sure.
It's just about how you implement it. And I think that from what I've seen in the studying that I've done, it's like communism works really well in very small, tight-knit communities. Because everybody they value generally the same things, and they all care about each other, and they know each other. Communism tends to fall apart when you start talking about millions and millions of people, because
I don't give a fuck about you.
You don't give a fuck about any of those people. Yeah, like you're not worried about them. Like, this idea that there's like class cohesiveness. Like, poor people don't necessarily like poor people just because they're poor.
Yeah,
and rich people don't like rich people just because they're rich.
Yeah.
Will they do business with them? Of course. Are they? Yeah. You know, like... It's not necessarily like we put people in these groups and we assume that they'll operate in the way that we think they will, but they're really not in that group. You put them in that group. They're not grouped together on their own.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is why I think something like this is kind of interesting, because it allows people to experiment and try new things, which is exactly how this country was developed, through experimentation, through trying new things. And, you know, I think that that's something that we seem to be lacking in society these days, is like, it's either incrementalism or it's a back and forth where every 4 to 8 years we go from one direction to another direction, and where everybody's pulling in all these different directions on the government and on our society, that it really can't go anywhere, which is something that we talk a lot about from the book The Decadent Society. And about how you just kind of end up stuck in these ruts of whatever it is that you think is providing you value, but really you're not progressing any further. You're just expanding whatever it is that you're doing right now.
So and this is going to be completely different. This is like, let's see this city.
Yeah. So yeah, he has this. This video right here it's about Telosa, and I tried to do some research on Marc Lore and just get some of his background and everything. Full disclosure, I was kind of trying to dig up some dirt on him just to be like, how reputable is this guy? Sure. And I couldn't really find anything in, I didn't do like a super deep dive, but just...
I was going to say, just go next door to Walmart. You'll find everything you're looking for.
Yeah, right? I'm sure that this Telosa's going to have a lot of Walmarts.
I'm going to guess that he's white and that he was born rich.
No.
I don't think he was born rich.
He was CEO of,
but he
Walmart.
basically... No, he wasn't CEO of Walmart. He was the executive of their e-commerce division, and he got that position as part of the deal when Walmart purchased his startup Jet.com for $3.3 billion in 2016. And so he
just got pulled into the rich white umbrella.
Well,
basically.
I mean, even like we look at Jeff Bezos, like, he got that big influx of money to kind of like make Amazon.
Oh, for years. Yeah. Like, people forget that Amazon was not built by the sweat of his brow or some shit. Like, that was an investor built company, which also sketches me out.
Pretty much all companies are.
Not like this. I mean, this man, like, let me see you turn a business. Nowadays, that's how they ran. But a lot of pure entrepreneurs will tell you that is a failed business model. Now, we haven't proven it yet. But, I mean, Amazon operated for like 10, almost 15 years, I don't know, on no profit whatsoever. They were just running on investor capital until they could flip the switch on and be like, okay, now billions start coming.
That's what Lyft and Uber are trying to do right now. Yeah. They're trying to get enough market share with venture capitalist funding until it becomes an actual profitable way of
which
doing
works
business.
In a great bull market. Like, we've been in a great economy for a decade now, at least 20 years actually. So we've been doing really well for a long time. So it works in that. But when that money dries up, when the squeeze gets put on all that money and investors don't have the money to give you
keep
anymore,
giving you,
that's when you usually go under. But nonetheless, like you said, it's kind of like modern monetary policy, right? Like that's the way it is right now. It's just like get the free money, you just get the free money and you can do whatever the fuck you want to.
I have a question before we move too far away from this because I wrote something down. When you were talking about communism working like in small batches, essentially, like it works much greater. We look at China as a communist nation, and they probably have the fastest growing, most technological cities being built. I wouldn't say that it's a bastion of communist success, but I would say that whatever model they're using appears to be doing beneficial things for their society.
For their government, though. I mean, is it working for their people?
I wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not those 3 billion people are happy or not.
All we have to do is take a look at history to find out what exactly is actually raising the living standards in China. Before they adopted, because right now what they have is a sort of like a hybrid system where they have complete communistic control from the government, but within that paradigm, they allow certain freedoms now that they didn't before. People forget that it wasn't too long ago that people were dying in China from famine. Like, it was a very poor country for a very long time, after it was also one of the most technologically advanced countries in ancient times. So, and civilizations do this trough and peak type situation all the time. But it wasn't until the Chinese Communist Party started implementing more free market ideals in their economics policies that the standard of living started to raise for Chinese people in China, which is, you can actually look at Hong Kong as a really good example, because Hong Kong was part of China, and then Britain kind of took it over for a while, and they implemented the British common law and British economic systems, and Hong Kong was very much more wealthy than a majority of China for a very long time, until China started implementing some of these free market things into their economy. So yes, like, I think that they're trying something very interesting right now, because it's like this hybrid system where like their economics is a little bit more free than it used to be and how it normally is under communist countries, but their overarching, like, it's not as if they don't have the power to rip all of that away if they wanted to. Like, the Chinese government still has complete control over the people and the economics. They're just giving them the opportunity to make some of their own decisions on a small scale. But all you have to do is look at some of the news articles and stuff about how certain billionaires or really high influential people in certain free market companies in China say the wrong thing about the Chinese government, and all of a sudden they're not CEO anymore.
Yeah, or they shut down 6 of their 7 social media websites and ban effeminate males from television.
Yeah, so it's like,
that one time you showed me Putin, like, just give him my pen.
Вы подписали этот договор? Да. Олег Владимирович подписал? Что, я не вижу вашей подписи. Идите, подпишите. Идите ко мне.
Like,
he showed up with all the guys who were running all those things, and
it was just like,
great. Yeah, he tried to walk away with his thing. It's like, hey,
I let you do this.
He made the guy sign the thing, and then the guy tried to like step away, and he's like, hey, give my pen.
He was like, I let you do this, because I think that thing with communism, like you said, it might seem to work, but it's a big ship with one steering wheel, and so it just it's like a dictatorship. Like, a dictatorship could be a great thing if you have a great dictator, you know what I mean? If they're like putting in laws that take care of all the people and are work, you know what I mean? Like, helping the.
There's nothing inherently wrong with any form of government. It's just about how you do it.
Yeah, because North Korea is right next to them, and they're doing it terribly. So it's just like, I don't know. I think that's what the thing about that whole thing with communism. I think it could work on a grand scale for sure, but it takes that, like, it's the same thing I keep talking about with the taxes. It takes this like altruism, like everybody has to have this culture of generosity and helping, and not everybody is like built with that naturally. So
this is why democratic socialism, which is what a lot of people would say like the Scandinavian countries operate under and what they would like us to model, this is why their cultures are extremely homogeneous. They have very small pockets of other cultures that are part of their communities and their societies. So when you have this culture who's more generally very similar and value similar things and care and don't have all these quote unquote others around them, they're much more willing to buy into a system like that. And we're starting to see some of that kind of fall apart with the countries that started taking in a lot of the refugees from Middle Eastern countries, because these Middle Easterns do not want to become Swedish or French. Like, they're not interested in that. They were literally just fleeing catastrophe in their own countries. They want to maintain their culture, their way of life, and they value different things. And so you're starting to see some of that friction, whereas America, the melting pot, has been largely not from the very beginning, obviously, because there's just British people, but very early in our country's history, it was a giant mix of all kinds of different people from all kinds of different places. And I think that that's one of the main reasons why people are afraid of communism here, or that it doesn't work in certain places, just because it's hard to know. It's hard to plan for all of those different people.
Do you think that Telosa is going to have that built into it then? Like this idea that this homogeneousness, like, I mean, we're talking about a city getting built in the middle of the desert. Who's going to come live in that city? And are they all going to share the same ideals, which we still haven't laid out exactly all the ideals that Telosa has, but we're going to get to that in a second. But I'm just saying, you think, like, like you said, you bring up a good point in the sense that it only seems to work that way if everybody's kind of on board.
Everybody has to buy into it.
Yeah. How do you populate a city from nothing with everybody who buys into your idea?
Well, I think that you'll see from the messaging, from the advertising and stuff, like we'll have this video, which is from this company named Archer, which it's a company that Marc Lore backed. I can't remember in what year, but he's a investor in this company, Archer. And it's like it started out as like an aviation company. I think that's still what they are, but he's going to be using them. They're trying to develop these like helo taxis, like electronic helo taxis. So they're like small and they can,
like
land.
big drones.
Yeah, like big drones, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And they're like autonomous flying taxi vehicles. But basically, he's partnered with them to like create the transportation for the city, if you will. But this is a video of them. Marc Lore's it's like he's out scouting in the desert, and he's going to talk a little bit about where he came from and what brought this idea to him.
And my grandma, she used to tell me, when I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a farmer. And my grandma, she used to tell me, no, you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, or you don't want to be a farmer. And I said, no, I want to be a farmer because they grow stuff from nothing. And I guess it was in my DNA at an early age. I love to grow stuff from nothing. And every idea starts with that seed. Well, today in America, we have a growing income and wealth disparity. The quality of life is not what it should be. And I think with Telosa, we have a chance to change that, or at least test a new model to see if we can learn something, at the very least. And in the best case scenario, we can create a higher quality of life for millions of people. And I had this seed of an idea years ago, and it's starting to get momentum, and it's super exciting. The cities of the future are going to need companies like Archer. We need disruptors. We need companies that are thinking about how to disrupt the current status quo. We need people with big ideas. We need people to take chances, take risk, try things. We're trying Telosa. We're trying this new model for society. Others need to try other models, other ideas. We need to take risk. We need to go back to the fundamental roots of what it means to be an American.
I was getting so hype in my brain. It was like the drone, like as he's talking, the drone just like comes up over the ridge and he like steps into the heli drone. It's like, we're the future. Archer's making hella drones.
Hella drones, baby.
I would have been sold right there. I'd have been
So
like,
before we watch this video, I actually want to go to the website of Telosa. You shouldn't have skipped forward. I had it put to the right spot.
Okay.
It was at 33 seconds. But anyways, Telosa, the little green one at the top. There you go. And then if you just click this ad, right, or this little play button.
equitable, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Telos means the highest purpose. It was a term coined by Aristotle. It's about individuals in society coming together to reach their fullest potential. The cities that have been built to date from scratch are more like real estate projects. They don't start with people at the center, because if you started with people at the center, you immediately would think, okay, what's the mission and what are the values? The mission of Telosa is to create a more equitable and sustainable future. That's our North Star, and that'll never change. What we're trying to do is combine sort of the best of different cities in the world and bring it together. So if you think about Telosa being as vibrant and diverse as a New York City, combined with efficiency, safety, and cleanliness of a city like Tokyo, combined with the social services, the sustainability, and the governance model of a city like Stockholm, we are going to be the most open, the most fair, and the most inclusive city in the world. If you really want to go after a moonshot, which I would consider the city to be, you have to start with a big, bold vision. You need to raise the required capital. You need to surround yourself with the very best people in the world. And if you get those three things right, you can achieve incredible, magical things. BRK, who's the founder of BIG, expressed an incredible passion for this project.
Telosa, in my mind, sort of embodies the kind of social and environmental care of a kind of Scandinavian culture and the kind of freedom and opportunity of a more American culture.
You get a great firm with someone who basically is super passionate and wants to see this project come to fruition as much as we do. We're taking a stab at what we call equitism here. What if you can pay the same taxes that you pay today, but get the best social services of any country in the world? That's equitism. Testing this new model for society, and at the same time, you're also testing building a city from a clean slate. What would you do? How do you infuse technology in it? How do you build it more sustainable? How do you build a public transportation system that's more efficient? How do you build underground movement of waste and goods to keep the city more clean, more walkable? How do you test autonomous vehicles to keep it safer? If I can imagine the ideal state 30 years from now, I would want people to have a sense of pride in the city, because the city lives by a set of values that resonate with them. That the city's the most open, the most fair, the most inclusive city in the world, and that's what people feel when they're in the city.
So, I think that through that messaging, you can kind of see the kind of people that they're looking to bring to the city. And so I think that even though I think that we're getting to the point where information is so widely disseminated amongst people that you can have people of different ethnic backgrounds, but they share the same values. And so because of that, I think that normally when you think of like a city like New York City and how vibrant and diverse it is, that provides a lot of pros, but it also comes with some cons. And a place like Tokyo, which is an extremely homogenous city and inside of extremely homogenous country, the efficiency and cleanliness comes from the fact that all of the people that live there buy into that. And so I think that if the people that they're attracting to the city all share those same kind of values and they buy into it, then I think that it could work even if it's a very diverse.
It's a huge if, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, that's a huge if, but yeah.
Because what are you gonna do? Just ban homeless? There's gonna be a lot of really clean homeless people out in Telosa.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Equal. like you said, equitism. Like
that's the name of their. If you scroll down from this website, it has a little explanation. Equitism is the economic model that they want to use in the city.
Now, I like that they're experimenting. So before I start shredding this, which I'm definitely gonna shred it.
Yeah.
I like that they're experimenting, and I understand that, like you said, humans have a very dystopian view. So, like he said, like I'm naturally cautious. I worry because one of the things he said first off to me was just like, "This is our North Star, and that'll never change." And I'm like, "Yeah, as long as you're the guy." But when the next guy comes and he has a different set of values and a different ideas, and he dupes you into thinking that he has the same values and ideas, or maybe he does when he starts, but then you die and his views change. It's like then
when Leninism becomes Stalinism.
quick, you know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah. Quick plug. I could not help but think that this was your book playing out in real life. I was like, when I was watching this the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is John's book. I was like, right now they're saying, oh, this is for the equal and everything. I was like, really what they're doing? This is just my dystopian brain going off. I'm like, really what they're doing is they're placating us while they build their super cities so that the rich can retreat away from the rest of us.
They can close the gate.
Dome over top and shit and be like, we live in a society now where we all have common values. We're all rich.
Yeah, our common values are that we smell nice and we're clean. Yeah. Get your stinking...
And it's fair for everybody who's equal here. But like...
Not the Muslims.
You're not equal.
You're not you guys.
You're not equal.
The Muslims have their own version of this. They got Dubai. Yeah. They literally already did this.
They did to an extent. But I mean, I think it's just SimCity. These motherfucking billionaires are just playing SimCity. That's all it is. What did they do in Dubai? Yeah. Hey, let's make you guys like SimCity?
Yeah.
Let's make a really cool city.
See, the interesting thing about Dubai, though, is that that's like one of the only ones that you can see as being a long-term success, in the sense like they had this idea from scratch. They're going to build this great city in the middle of the desert, and it's going to like work. Now, what I found that was interesting was like, obviously, Marc Lore isn't the first guy to think about this. Apparently, Bill Gates tried to do this 4 years ago. He bought like $80 million worth of land in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona, and nothing's happened. Now, it's only been 4 years, so it's like hard to say.
Nothing's happened above ground.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, nothing that you can see. That's a good point.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's
right.
So funny. Now he's not the first one to do it, and I like that idea, like you said, that they're building some city. But I've noticed that there is a lot of people don't give the rich enough credit. I mean, at least publicly. Like I said, I don't know. I have natural skepticism. Everybody, all right. I'm skeptical of the government. I'm skeptical of rich people I don't know. Like I'm skeptical of everybody I don't know. So that's just a caveat to all my points. But this is what they say. But there's a lot of rich out here who are concerned with the wealth gap. Mm-hmm. And we make it seem like it's like, oh, the rich are just trying to oppress us and push. But if you listen to a lot of them talk, Bill Gates has brought this up. Like this guy brings this up. Like I've seen a lot of multi-billionaires talking about the wealth gap in America. Warren Buffett is one of our biggest concerns, mm-hmm. and they're rich. They're rich, and
they don't want to get eaten.
Yeah, exactly. They're in the same boat. They're like, look, we don't want to get lynched either. So it's like we realize that this is a problem, and they're looking for solutions. Mm-hmm. Or at least that's what they're telling us. So
yeah, and the way it all works is very interesting. Apparently, what they'll do is they'll purchase the land once they've decided on where it's going to be, and then they'll donate that land to a community endowment. And then basically what people will do is they'll purchase houses that are on the land, and as the value of the land grows, the community endowment will grow. And then they say that after a period of, quote, hyper growth, the residents will be able to purchase the land that their houses are on from the endowment. And they don't necessarily define in the website what hyper growth means. I think it just means like once the community endowment reaches a certain amount of money or something, or the city's at a certain value and people are like interested in coming.
It's the Amazon model, right? Like we're going to take investment from you, everybody who moves here, and we're going to use that as communal investment to grow the city. And then once we get to a certain point, you get to reap dividends.
Then you reap dividends. Exactly. Yeah. And so it's all about having these, like a really expansive social safety net, like really good services. And so it's like you said, if you could, like, I love that line that he said, like, if you could pay the exact same amount in taxes that you do now, but get the world's best social services, that's what we're trying to do. And I was like, awesome. That's great. And I would love that.
But
it just depends on how they do it.
All of our homeless people are going to have fresh haircuts.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the social services would be like affordable housing or housing for people who can't, mm-hmm. I'm assuming those are all things that they'd look into given the way that they're conveying their messaging.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the way I see it, from what I understand, I don't imagine the city, if it does succeed and is exactly what they say it is, I don't imagine there would be any homeless people to begin with.
Well, that's under the assumption that housing solves homelessness, which it sounds like it should because of the words, but it doesn't.
No.
Because you have homeless people that want their freedom. And that freedom means I want to be able to do my fucking drugs and act the way that I want to act, and you can't stop me. It's
this is where the dome comes in.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
if you can be low income in the city relatively and live in a house that's provided for you, but if you want to be a druggie that lives on the street, you're gonna have to go do that in Vegas.
Well, that's kind of the point I wanted to draw the parallel between, like, you have Veterans Park in Los Angeles, where you have like this big veteran center, and that big veteran center has housing for the homeless veterans, and it's there for them, but they can't do drugs. So what does the outside of the veterans place look like? It's surrounded by tents with American flags on them where the homeless people live.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to give up their freedoms.
Right.
And now I'm not necessarily in agreement that that's the best way to solve. It's not solving anything.
Right.
It doesn't seem like a good situation all around. I'm saying, like, we can have the most futuristic, beautiful city, but unless you ban homeless people or force them out they're going to be there.
Well, it's because I really want to hear some solid definitions in the real world of what equitism means, because like
they have a little graphic if you scroll down, and I think they even have a little video where it like explains how the system is supposed to work. It's a long fucking website though.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're really getting you, really working that pointer finger.
Yeah.
There it is, the equitism thing.
The city, which an economic system in which citizens have a stake in the land. As the city does better, the residents do better. We call this. So okay, and
isn't this just property taxes?
Well, it's
like your property value raises when
But then, like you said, property tax doesn't go to you; it goes to the government. And so what I think they're trying to get at is what most communists would get at, right? Is like, we want to own something. We don't want to just work for you guys. We want to have a piece of ownership. And so that's what they're saying is, like, you invest in this and then you own a piece of the city. Like, it's your city.
Like, you have stock in the city.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have stock in the city is really what I see happening. But that, to me, doesn't solve the fundamental problem, because we talked about communism in the sense of, like, what if your ideals don't align and stuff. But there's a whole other caveat of, like, how much work needs to be done. We had a conversation about this in the games. Everybody sets a different bar as to how much they want to work versus play, and so you get certain people who want the benefits of equitism but are not necessarily going to put in as much as other people are willing to put in, and I mean that in as far as like labor and stuff like that, but it could be in all those types of things, like how much they want to pay in and all this stuff to get those benefits. And so it's like, when they say, oh well, we're going to attract people who are into this idea of equitism, well, like I said, we all have a different view of what that means, what it means to be all equal, because you don't really see that. Like, we're all equal, but we express that equality in different ways, and so it
depends on equal in what context.
Exactly.
Like, you could be equal in the amount of money you both possess.
Yeah.
That's one form of equality. Everybody has the same amount of money. You could be equal in the opportunities that everybody has. So, obviously that's kind of what this country's supposed to have, is like equal opportunities, and where if you put in the work and you like nothing, no doors are closed to you, but you got to open them yourself, essentially. So it just depends on what their definitions of, like you said, of all of these terms are. Like equitism, like, we know that equity just means similar outcomes, but that doesn't say anything for the inputs. You don't get outputs without inputs. So unless you're getting equal inputs, I don't understand how you're going to get equal outputs. Unless you take more from the people who input more and give it to people who don't put it in a lot at all.
You kind of bring up this point in my head where it's just like, what trade-offs are we going to make for this equitism? Because, like, we look at something like social media, and it was like, oh, I have an instant way to share my thoughts with my friends and communicate with all the people in my life I've always wanted to keep track of, that I don't want to write letters to. But they're going to sell your data and inundate you with advertising.
Right.
And they're going to shape our culture.
Right.
And it's like, if I'm walking around, what's the name of it?
Telosa.
If I'm walking around Telosa, and I'm just like, oh, this is really nice. Oh, that entire building is an advertisement. Well, I don't want to watch that. I'm going to look over here. Oh, this entire building is an advertisement. Oh, the sidewalk is an advertisement. It's like, oh, they're tracking my steps now. Like these are scenarios that could easily happen. When we were looking at mega cities, I immediately thought of the MGM in Vegas that they're building, the big dome, a big sphere that they're building in Vegas, which I didn't even know about it until I went to Morton's Steakhouse the other night. And I was like, getting brought around this construction project. I'm like, that's a big ass circle. The fuck is this big ass circle? I assumed it was like they have a big ass pyramid. They got all these other big ass things in Vegas. It's just a big shape. Vegas likes shapes. But I looked into it and it's like, yes, the interior is going to be an amazing movie going and show experience. But the whole fucking outside of that dome is going to be advertising.
Yeah, just like the Raider Stadium ended up being that too,
absolutely
for sure. But still a cool ass project.
Inside,
it's like a
big
LED snow globe thing where you can watch a show, and like that's
fucking
pretty epic.
For 99% of its exterior Showtime life, it's just gonna be like take Zizazol, take fucking Lexaplam.
I guess what you're pointing to is what I was gonna point. It always comes back to the money, right? Like, how are you going to fund this city? Because he says, like, oh, the social programs of, like, a Scandinavia. Scandinavia pays, like, 50% taxes. So it's you know what I mean? Like, they give a lot of their money to those programs. So it's like, and is everybody going to buy into that necessarily? So that's my thing is, a couple things. Like, when I see them building these cities, I just can't get Lex Luthor out of my head. Or, like, the Green Goblin. Like, every villain ever, where it's like, somebody, or in those superhero movies, right, where they build the suit to help, but then their greedy evil son kills him and then takes the suit and decides he's going to be a world conqueror with it, type shit. It's like, I love that these billionaires are trying these things, and he's right, we're going to have to take these risks, and you're right, like, I'm glad that we're taking them small, right, like, instead of like trying to turn our entire country into a mega fair city, whatever. But I just always see, like, great technology in the wrong hands still produces a very terrible result, and so that's what I'm like. When I see these, I move with a little more caution. Like I said, my skepticism just breeds in. I'm like, what happens when you die? Because you have great values. I'm not pointing at Marc Lore. I don't think like you said, it doesn't seem like he's an evil guy. He might really have that empathetic nature like I have, like a lot of people have, that they want to help and they want to figure out a way to solve these wealth gaps and stuff like that. But I just don't know like the city's going to live long after you're gone, and what type of technology and things is going to be in there that other people might want to exploit.
That's why I point to those trade-offs, It's like, if you want to be an actor in theater, then your best chance of success is to go to New York.
Yeah.
But the trade-off is you're going to have to interact with people, stabbing other people on the sidewalk, or, like people hurling racist abuse at people. Like New York's got its trade-offs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because a lot of people aren't going to buy into any of that fuck shit. They're just going to be like, whoa, cool city to move to. And I don't know if they have some type of like application process that goes into like who gets
apparently
to buy
right
the
now
land.
They do. I saw this YouTube video when I was doing some of my research, and it was like this woman, and she was like, I applied to live in Telosa or whatever. So like it looks like maybe for like the beginning stages they're looking for applicants, and they'll pick the best people to build
have
a
a
foundation.
good credit score if you want to live at Telosa.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But my problem with it is that although I think that this is a cool project and I think he should do it, and I don't want him to use my tax money to build it, but there's really nothing I can do to stop him from that.
Right.
But I think that this is an example of someone trying to build something from the top down that involves the individual choices and lifestyles of millions of people, which doesn't work. You can't top down control what all of these people and how they live and what they're going to do in your city.
Agreed.
Like, that's just not going to happen. So although I would love to see this city be a success, I don't have any, like, I wouldn't be putting my money on it being a success, and I'm definitely not moving there anytime soon.
The only way it's going to be a success is if they do what they're doing, and that's gatekeep it.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Like, it could be a success for a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
And it could be it'll be like a country club.
Because you can't, exactly. Because you can't take the population of Chicago, drop them in Telos, and then just everything be okay.
I'll tell you where it is going to be a home run though. Anybody who pulls off one of these projects where it's undeniably we're going to see some serious advancements from this is in the sustainability department, right? Like you cannot argue with that. Like if they start figuring out ways to develop new sewage, develop new transportation,
new skyscrapers,
like
new
just
building materials,
and like you said, starting from the ground up, which is huge because a lot of people talk about that. Well, like how are we going to infrastructure? We have all this stuff. We can't just tear it all down and build, so building new shit from the start with that in mind is going to be huge.
The water is still poisoned in Flint, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. So I look forward to that part. It's all the other ideologies that go into each, like we say, each individual human sees those things differently and stuff. That's going to be more. But technology is unanimously applicable. So it's like, if they figure out some way to do hella taxis and shit that's fucking fire, you best believe Uber is going to get the hella taxis here in San Francisco too.
The more I look at this too, the more I think like this is the same. This is colonizing the moon. It's like, buy some moon property. Yeah. We'll see some hyper growth and then we'll all live on the moon if you can afford it.
Read John's book, y'all. When John's book hits, y'all read that because he really points to this. I can't help but think like I said, there's a part of my brain that my archaic alligator brain that's afraid of everything, that just sees rich people trying to build their own cities without too many questions coming about. Yeah. It's like they do this is for you.
Yeah, look at this amazing growth. Rich people.
Yeah. But eventually, like you said, I think it just ends up populated with a bunch of people who they deem worthy to come to their city, and then 10-15 years down the road there's a dome on it, and you can't come in unless we say.
I'll tell you what, they're not gonna have ashtrays or people selling Lucy's. They're just not.
I mean, like you said, crime, poverty, all that stuff, they're gonna try and wipe that just because they have this ideology. It brings me back to the point that you were trying to make, right? Which was like, it's dystopian or utopian, right? And like, this feels utopian to me. Like it feels like I want it to, like, I don't know where that line.
What if it was open for everybody?
Is. Yeah.
What if it was open for what if there was no application process? It was just a city you could move to.
Then I don't think it would be.
I don't think it'll work. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think it'll end up, because that's the thing about dystopian versus utopia. Anything that everybody's trying to do, what you're trying to do is weed out the evil human nature. Which there's
no way to do.
There's no way to do that. There's just no way to do that. Like, I mean, there is a way. But you definitely, like you said, it's not going to come from the top down. That's for damn sure. And it's going to take a very, very long time.
It's going to take a very tight social credit score system. You're going to have to be like, you have to have this high of a credit score. You got to make this much. You got to prove it. You got to have, this amount of, children or, no criminal record. Then maybe something like this works.
Yeah. Because, I hate to call it like Hitler, it's like just such a perfect example. It's just like the devil comes in sheep's clothing. You know what I mean? He always comes with this like, the vaccine's good for you. They're going to help you. That's how it always comes. This war going to save your freedom. It never comes as like, hey, we know we might be doing some fuck shit. Hey, we know we might be creating viruses that are too dangerous for us to handle. It never comes with that. And so, all this propaganda and shit, it's like, I'll see it when I see it. But he's also not the first motherfucker to do this. I was like, I brought up my point of my home.
G.
Yeah, G, you know what I'm saying? There's other motherfuckers out here.
There he is.
Yeah, Akon out here trying to build Wakanda. So, I mean,
it's literally what he's doing.
I can't help but notice that their big, gigantic building in the middle looks like a good vibrator.
Oh, yeah, it's got the piece for the butthole, too. Yeah. It's got the little butthole tickler.
That's not what it's for.
You just don't use it properly.
I guess if you're a male using one, then yeah, you're right.
Oh, shit, that's funny.
So funny. But no, I mean, same thing. This is pretty much the same example. I had seen this a couple years ago. I'm gonna tell you this though. This project got fishy written all over it from the start.
Fire Festival 2.0. This is.
I swear to God, I better not look up like the board of directors for the city and see Wyclef Jean on this motherfucker.
You know he's getting involved. No, but look, that's the thing about it is like you said, Marc Lore, he kind of pointed out one of his investors and stuff. Akon's been keeping his investors really close to the chest. Mm-hmm. Not really, like, I think people have been speculating of who they think it is, and the guy who it is like, he's not a good dude. He's not a good dude.
A-coin? Stop.
Yeah, it's gonna run on his
Stop.
own Bitcoin currency, right? The A coin, and it's gonna be built in Senegal. So again, trying to do something good for the people,
Putting it where the people really want it.
Yeah.
Where do the people really want a mega city? Senegal.
You know what I'm saying? Like now, look,
The people of Senegal want it.
Some infrastructure and some, bringing up that third world country into our times is great. What the fuck they gonna do with it? A coin. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I just don't like that he's naming thing after himself. He's
all
like
that
Trump.
sketch. Yes, he's trumping it for sure.
Welcome to Akon City, where we use A coin, and this is the Akon Tower in the center.
What's your measurement system? Well, it's about 55 acons to the fucking...
It's like we got our own fucking...
I even heard somebody, and I don't know if this is somebody else accusing him or if he actually said this, but he was like, I just don't want my legacy to be smacked at. And he's like, all right, that's not as good of a compelling argument as this other dude who's like with the equitism shit. And it's like, you just don't want to be known as a shitty pop star, and so you're trying to build a city. It's like, and you're with the tilt of like doing good. But yo, I mean, how much they say this shit was gonna cost? It was like hundreds of billions of dollars. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for his unnamed investors to come out and be like, it's me, Cisco, Ja Rule. We got cheese on the board of directors.
That's so funny because wasn't Ja Rule involved in Fire Fest? Yeah. So you're right. It's got look. A few details of the project have been made public. Investors for the estimated $6 billion scheme could not be named after signing non-disclosure agreements, but a third of the funding has been secured. Akon said. The singer has in the past dodged questions about how his cryptocurrency will be viable in the planned city, saying he would leave it to the geeks to work out.
Yeah, I'm
$6 billion. They're gonna build this amazing city in Senegal for $6 billion. Marc Lore is projected to cost $400 billion.
How they already got $2 billion?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, Jeff Bezos got $200 billion, so people got billions.
But they're giving it to Akon?
Yeah. Not to mention, Senegal is one of the most corrupt countries on the entire planet. I mean, it's got bad written all over it. I mean, if everything, like you said, where Marc Lore might succeed, I think that this one 100% fails. Because these investors, we don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? And they might not have these principles and all these things that Mark and them are all trying to say they got. I mean,
to be clear, Mark hasn't said who his investors are either. Yeah. He invested in Archer, the aviation company.
He did call out that Bjark guy who was like...
That's another partnership. So, like, he's partnering with this Archer company that he's invested in to create, like, the transportation systems. And then he's partnering with that big... It's a... It's a design studio. So like they designed all the renders that you were seeing on the website of like the 3D renders of like what the city might look like. And so he's partnering with them. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he owns stock in that company too. And so like through my research, I was trying to find out what's this guy's angle? I was like, is he just trying to start a really big money pump project?
Right.
Like a pump and dump.
Right.
That's what I thought this was at the beginning. I was like, this is a pump and dump.
Right.
He's going to get together with all of the companies that he invests in and get a bunch of other people to invest in this project that these companies are running. And then it's going to go tank, but they will, in the meantime, have sucked billions of dollars out of this project.
We build the wall.
Yeah,
it's WeWork. That's the whole idea. Like, if anybody knows anything about the WeWork company,
Theranos. Sorry,
dude, so funny. But nonetheless, I mean, it's cool. We're gonna have to build them eventually, right?
I'd rather you do this in the desert of Nevada or wherever with his own people. Like, if it works, then great. Even if it works, I don't know if I'd want to live there based on how it works. But if it works, then that's good. And I think that we should be more open to letting people try these big ideas.
Because like you said, if it fails,
see where it goes.
It's one failed city. And we've had millions of failed cities. That's not going to be, I mean, San Francisco is on the brink of being a failed city. So it's like,
and it could also be, wave of the future type shit. We talked about, I don't know if that episode ever came out, but we talked about the Yeezy campus in Wyoming.
I do remember
the concept art from that was enough to get me excited.
Yeah.
Because it was this idea of just like essentially shaping the landscape into modern structures, which instead of like building a skyscraper, it was like these weird like craters with like earth domes.
Yeah, like cave type,
like almost cave type things.
Very flowy, very like minimalist.
Yeah, and it looked like, whoa, that could be a wave. Like when I think about the future, it's always somebody's vision of the future. And when I see Kanye's vision of the future, and I see those weird like inset bowls he creates in the ground for like Sunday service and shit like that from that one certain designer, I think, wow, that actually in my brain's like, that looks like the future. You know what I mean?
This shit, the Fifth Element, mine's always Fifth Element. Like that's the most like, but you know, Fifth Element kind of steals this shit from everybody else too. Like they all look kind of the same. But
yeah, like Star Wars Fifth Element, they all have like the multi-flying car layers.
Yeah. Like these renderings and stuff, they look. I mean, Dubai has got a very lot feel like this too. You know, which we brought into. But he says it's going to be 800 hectare, which is about 2,000 acres, surrealist, solar-powered Acon city.
Wait. He wants this whole city to be solar-powered?
The whole city to be solar-powered and run on Acoin. He said the plan depicts gleaming skyscrapers, shopping malls, music studios, and eco-friendly tourist resorts. They envisage?
Envisage, it's a strange
that
use.
Acoin, a cryptocurrency founded by the R&B star, would be the central currency. Now, my question to you. These are fucking goddamn Ugandans, man. How are they going to afford to go to the fucking shopping mall? Like, that's to me as like, just because you build all the stuff there, like the economics still don't seem, I mean, unless they're going to just have these ridiculously well-paying jobs and everything there. Like, how is
well, because it's not
the economy gonna.
This city is not for the poor people of Senegal. It's for rich people to come in and stimulate the economy of Senegal and raise it from the
tourism.
Trickle down.
Yeah, and so it's the same idea as what I was talking about with the Amazon thing. Like it's not like you hope that Amazon factory being there provides more opportunities for the low income people that live in that neighborhood and helps rise them out of poverty. It's not necessarily. That's different because this is a place that's providing jobs, whereas this place is like a place to live, which will have jobs in it, but you also have to have people who can afford to live there too.
Yeah. Then don't fucking call it Wakanda, because you know, like you say, building it off the basis of like Wakanda was something that was like very inherent to the people, and it was about their culture and everything. It wasn't just about like this super cool city, you know. So it's just like,
and that also the only reason that Wakanda was even like an awesome place was just because they happened to have the only source to the greatest, most advanced metal ever.
Yes, vibranium.
So it's like, like they kind of had a leg up.
They had vibranium. He's got Acoin.
Yeah, right. So it's similar. It's similar. Yeah.
I would say this too. Like,
bet you he wears a Black Panther thing at the if it opens, he's wearing a Black Panther outfit like a motherfucker.
If he's still alive, he's coming out in full on Marvel uniform.
Yeah.
I look at these, and one of the things that my mind always immediately jumps to is how friendly are these cities? I'm talking about Acon City, Telos, and Dubai. How friendly are they to foot travel, to bikes, to non-fossil fuel means of transportation?
I'll tell you right now, Dubai is not.
That's what I was going to ask you.
There was
when
like
I look
a 12-lane super highway that was like
apparently
Lamborghinis
in Telosa, the whole idea is to have like the same population density as something like San Francisco, like 33 people per acre. I saw it was like one of their little, when I just kind of skimmed through the website, and it's from what they said, it's all centered around pedestrian living, and so it's going to be a very dense, tightly packed city, so that way it's not reliant on the use of cars and stuff. And plus, all the cars, they said that all the cars that are going to be there are going to be autonomous electrical vehicles anyways. So even if you do have to drive somewhere, it's going to be in an electric vehicle, which isn't really like getting off fossil fuels because the electricity comes from fossil fuels. And I've never seen a study that says that using electric vehicles uses less fossil fuels. Like, I don't know.
I guess maybe it does because like you don't have like the amount of times you have to go to gas. Like Johnny drives his Tesla like all day, every day, all back and forth to work, and he uses like $2 in electricity like a day or some shit. So it's like it's a very little bit of electricity compared to the gallons and gallons and gallons of straight up fossil fuel that he would use. Like that's also processed. So anyways, whatever, it's leveraged. But So I would say they're cleaner, but then we also have talked about before in the past, like lithium-ion batteries. They don't just go away. Like that's a waste.
Solar panels, they have a basically a half-life or a shelf life where once a solar panel has to be discarded, that's toxic.
Yeah, you
got billions of pounds of those.
If you have a whole city full of them, like what are you gonna do with all those batteries? Like where are you gonna stash all those? But so one caveat I want to make: we keep throwing Dubai into this topic. And I think that he was actually taking an intentional shot at Dubai because Dubai was created specifically as a real estate development. Like that was its whole goal. And it was not designed at all with any type of like,
we're going to be the wave of the future
type thing. They were just like, we're going to build a really, really cool city.
To make money.
And like to have a place like, that's just cool.
Where we can drive our Lamborghini.
Right. That's why it's built in a palm tree fucking design. You know what I mean? So it's
which is like, hey, they were straight up with it.
More power to them. They damn sure figured out how to get water into that desert, which was like a monumental feat. Like
we can create rain.
Huh?
So we do that now. Yeah.
I saw there was a. I mean, yeah, we do that now, but like to the extent that they did it, I mean, we're talking about a place that statistically never had water, and they like drew it by like the hundreds of millions of like they built their own like Tigris River to that shit. It's insane.
I heard something yesterday that blew my fucking mind in the sense it's so weird that I've never thought about it. It's like. So we have like water shortages in America. Like California has like a water shortage. There's like a drought. There's droughts all the time.
Oh yeah,
there's tons of like clean, like problems getting enough water.
Well, you made it seem like the labor shortage where like everybody's out here like.
No, but it's like like you can't water your lawn.
Yeah.
It just hasn't hit that. It just hasn't hit that level yet. Where your sector isn't getting water for the next 8 hours.
Yeah.
So apparently Israel gets a ton of its fresh water from desalination.
Oh, cool.
So. Technology exists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't ship water across our country in tubes. We don't have like fresh water coming from here to there. There's no infrastructure for that.
No, you have to get it locally.
You have to get it. Yeah, you get bottled water or you get it from like your little like local water reservoir, whatever the reservoir is.
Whatever it is.
But we pump oil all over the goddamn
pipelines
world.
For years.
Pipelines everywhere, shipping oil everywhere.
True.
How long before water becomes as much of a commodity as oil? And how long until desalination becomes like something that we actually invest in and actually use in America so that we...
Telosa will probably have something like that. You know what I mean? Like we're starting to build these cities and that's the only thing... I mean, that's the only answer I can come up with. Like, I mean, obviously, like you said, we're arguing over money to go to any type of infrastructure plan. Like it'll take years for that to get through our government and in any real substantial way, right? Like... and I think that's what the decadent society things comes into play is so many people have the mentality that our government just works, like the people don't necessarily. And I think that's still kind of new. Like, I mean, like we said, it's only been 20 years maybe or so where we even started questioning like, is this actually working well, But I think most people think we all ride on that. We're the greatest country in the world, and so we're doing it the best. And so you're not really looking to innovate what you're already doing. You just want to keep doing what you're doing right now. And so that'll be a long time. But I think that this is the way we do that. Like you said, disruption, new cities with whole new ideologies, whole new infrastructure plans, and then those having proven success, then it's hard to be like...
Why wouldn't you adopt that?
Like why wouldn't you do it? Especially when it's happening right here in your own country, right down the street, in some weird place.
How long before human transporting drones become a normalized thing?
50 years.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
I think less than that, personally.
Well, I mean, before it becomes ubiquitous in society?
It took 20 years for the internet to get to where it is now, and it's not even really reached that point where you can live inside of it, so I would say 50 years is a good... I mean, 20 years? You think 20 years from now we'll just be flying around in drones?
I don't think 20 years from now we'll all be flying around in drones, but I think the ability to like, let's just call the Uber to have the drone pick us up and bring us, somewhere. I think 20 years doesn't
they already got Uber helicopters, so yeah, and Archer's already creating...
I mean, there's already people that fly around on drone boards.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
there's people that cross the border from Mexico into America using drones.
But until it becomes like the Department of Transportation is like, yo, we're moving to... You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between the technology becoming available and it becoming widely adopted, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, because you'd have to rethink your entire conception of transportation to accommodate flying vehicles, like low flying vehicles. That would be ridiculous. You'd have to you'd have to work out the entire layout of the city in a different way. There'd be 2 layers to the city. There'd be the ground level, and then there'd be a separate, completely differently designed and thought of air level, because just not even 20 feet off the ground, you have power lines everywhere. And so you're either going to have to fly above them, or you're going to have to figure out a way to reroute those power lines to follow the road systems. Like, so it's a ton of infrastructure that has to come with it. It's more than just saying, like, this company has a viable hella drone that is autonomous. Then you got to go through, like, the government's got to approve it. It's got to go through safety testing. It's a long process.
But we did talk about that time with Bill Gates too. Bill Gates been working on figuring out how to turn shit into water. Remember I was showing y'all that whole, like, he funded a whole
Drank the glass of poop water.
Yeah. He was all like, this used to be shit. You know?
Yeah, this was feces.
Yeah. So I mean, like you said, the technology, we're trying to develop it, but I haven't seen a major sweeping change in the way that Americans do things.
Why is that?
Ever, maybe. I don't know. I can't name the last time.
Because it takes a long time.
Something. Yeah, that's
it's
all
not.
I can think
of. People don't just come up with the ideas of toilets like every day.
Yeah, but I mean, is suppression a real thing? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's less prevalent than hardcore conspiracy theorists would say it is. But the fossil fuel industry does not want green energy. Like, if they could have it their way, and they have a lot of influence, but they don't have all the influence. So if they could have it their way, you'd be burning fossil fuels to the day it just all dries up.
How come there's not private vaccines? You know what I mean? Like, how come anybody can't develop a vaccine?
I mean, they can. It just not everybody.
They've already decided that these 3 companies were going to be contracted to make the vaccine, and they have the patents for it. So now nobody else. I mean, I guess they could develop their own.
You could develop your own vaccine with your own money, but the government decided who they were going to give their money to. Anybody can make a vaccine.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But either way, my point is, I would definitely say that there's suppression. I would definitely say like, but at the same time, go ask your great grandparents if they feel like today's world is different than the world that they lived in. They would say 1,000%.
Yeah.
Now I would say no. I would say, I mean, yeah, you got fancier TVs, but you're still watching TV. You got like a building with more AC, but you're still
shooting the same bullets. I remember sitting on the steps in 2nd grade talking to my friend. I was like, by the time I join the army, they're gonna have laser guns.
Yep.
I dead ass remember saying that in 2nd grade.
Which they do have a laser gun.
Yeah, but it's not like.
But it's not G.I. Joe.
Yeah. Like, it's not like they're not standard issue.
Yeah. But that's, again, you should really read The Decadent Society, because that's one of the things that they point to.
I have an MP3 version I can send it to you.
Yeah, like in the sense of, like, how come those things aren't happening? Like, you have this. Cars are such a perfect example, right? By now, you would have thought they would have had a flying car or a car that runs on water or anything. But instead, it's just like, put GPS in that hoe, though. Yeah. Still, you strip away the stuff. The chassis is the same chassis that we've been riding on for 100-something plus years. It's the same engine mixed into tires, it's the.
It hasn't fundamentally changed at all. Like, the car, when it came out, completely fundamentally changed transportation from when we were using horses and buggies.
Right.
Totally different thing.
Way different.
It hasn't changed at all since then.
Yeah. And it changed war, travel.
It touched so many aspects of society.
Like, literally every aspect of society.
I would say the last thing to do that has been the internet, and,
right.
And even that, like, we talk about how temperate.
That's just communication. That was a very revolutionary change in the sole area of communication.
Yeah.
Communication and information dissemination. That's really the only thing that the internet changed. Mm-hmm. And now we're just seeing how we've all come up with creative ways to use that change, but essentially we're all just communicating through whatever means that we have, but it hasn't really fundamentally changed how we do what we do.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about, like, in the whole sense of, like, trying to reimagine a city or a government. We talk about this. We're going to do an episode on this. I promise you guys. I really want to come correct for that episode, so we got to do the research. But, like, that was what that boy state was kind of about, too. Is like, throw it all away. Like, stop being like, oh, we got to amend it, and we got to amend it, and we just keep bandaging it up. Just throw it all away and get the smartest minds in the room and say, if we're just going to do this completely, completely
the same way they're doing Telos, because it's like, you're not going to just rip up Chicago and rebuild
Right.
it just doesn't work.
Doesn't.
But you could build a new Chicago that is gonna be easier for people to walk around.
Fundamentally
you don't
different.
have to have a car to have a job.
Completely reimagine. That's the thing about innovation. It's like you got to completely reimagine. Elon Musk is the best example ever of, he didn't just build a rocket. You know what I mean? Like, he could have just easily came in, took all their technology, built his own rocket, and be in space.
And sold them a better rocket.
Instead he said, fuck all that. If I was going to make a rocket, or if we could make a rocket today with everything that we have, how could we do it different? And he did it for billions cheaper with whole different technology, reusable. You know what I mean? Like, it just changed the whole space game. And so we need more of that in our society, like true innovation, not just being like, oh, you know what? I could do this with a different color and then I'll make money. It's like, redesign, like actually change something. Don't just get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
Slap a new label on Coca-Cola and say, I got Diet Coca-Cola and I got sugar-free Coca-Cola, and
instead of developing a new beverage that tastes like Coca-Cola, but it's really just water with a little bit of fucking
like a whole different situation. So we're gonna need some of that. And I mean, at least, like I said, there's people out here trying. I say we need that, but I'm also skeptical and scared.
What's going to help us innovate? 2 free years of community college.
Yeah, it would, though. It actually would. It really, really
it might.
would. I mean, assuming that college teaches, college teaches critical thinking, which it does not. Which it does not.
What if I said 2 years of mandatory military service?
Absolutely not. Because no, that was my point with the college shit. Like, and I got this from Jordan Peterson, obviously, but they don't teach you how to think for yourself. They say these are the facts, and you better know that these are the facts because I said that they're the facts. And it's like, so no, I don't think it actually would help.
I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, maybe just in private, but like I've had this idea for a blog post that I wanted to write, which is that public school and our entire education system, the way that it's set up in America, is not about the curriculum. It's about the behaviors that they teach children. It has nothing to do. That's why they wouldn't let us argue about what we should put in the curriculum if that was actually of any consequence to what the actual goal of it is. It has less to do with what mathematical theories they teach you than that you're going to sit down, you're going to be quiet, you're going to follow the rules, you're going to raise your hand, you're going to do what we tell you to do when we tell you to do it, and you're going to be orderly.
Watch this entry of the self.
Yeah.
But I would give you this part, though, like, I would like to see the placebo. Give them the placebo. Give these kids who really bought into this idea that college is going to somehow transform their lives, and then they feel frustrated and beat down because they can't get to this golden key. Maybe if they did have access to that place and they could go and succeed in that place, it would give them the confidence that they need to go out into the world and be able to, hit on.
Or just lighten the load a little bit. I did 2.5, 3 years in a community college, and I saw my fair share.
How'd that work out for you?
I would say with my I did mostly literary analysis. Yeah. That was the majority of my degree, was just reading really dense works of fiction and nonfiction and just tearing them apart, understanding themes, understanding grammar, all of those things. So, I mean, I'm using those today in writing a novel, but if I wasn't writing a novel...
And you also just said I read, which is like something you could totally done for free. You could have just started grabbing all of those dense materials and breaking them apart.
In this day and age, I could have just watched YouTube video breakdowns of, The Great Gatsby and probably had some sort. But this was a one-on-one experience, not one-on-one, but like a classroom experience.
Certain people learn better in those types of environments.
I would say I don't,
need to be directed towards.
I would say I work better in a classroom environment. And
clear objectives and stuff for you to
like assignments, tasks, where I'm not having to create them myself, or it's not someone who can't hold me accountable like a YouTuber or something. So I got something from it, but damn, I lost my point.
Sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. It was
so funny. It was like,
you were talking about
lighten
how
the load.
Lighten the load. So when I was in community college, I saw my fair share, quite a few, of single mothers, people without high school diplomas who had to go get their GED and then work 2 jobs to like afford their own community college. Like the people that were like the hustlers, the grinders, the people that were like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do, no matter if it means I don't get to spend time with my family or my children, or my grandma's got to take care of them, or whatever, or I got to live at home just to get my college education. Like, I saw them scrape and claw for that shit. Mm-hmm. Now, if this works out the way that it's intended, where it's like you get done with high school, and if I'm assuming you have good enough grades, you get 2 free years of community college, it just seems like those same people who were scraping and clawing, it seems like it would lighten their load. You know, free daycare up to pre-K, and then pre-K afterwards. Like, these are things that could help a single mother who's working 40 hours a week go to community college and not go into debt from it, or have to burden someone else in their family with taking care of their child.
I'll make this my last point. I would say that the scraping and clawing is far more valuable than the degree. Like, that's just what I'll say. Like, I would say that there is a certain inherent value in the as ambitious in the way I am now. I work hard and I go after things far more than I see a lot of my contemporaries do, and that's because it was hard for me. Like, it was hard for me, and that hardness built calluses in my mind, more so than my hands, but in my mind, of like what it means to do hard things. And so now I do things that are extremely difficult that other people are like, whoa, man, I can't believe you do all this, and you go to the gym and you this and that. And I'm like, you know, it's really easy compared to the things that I've had to struggle through to get to. So I mean, just from my standpoint, like, I feel you, the lightening of the load. For me, it's more access for certain people who can't seem to find that based on their thing. But the grinding, you know what I mean?
Well, you're going to have to grind to get your degree. You know, you're going to have to.
And like I said, I think you'll appreciate it even more if you also had to grind through your personal time and everything else. Like, it makes that degree that much sweeter. And like I said, you know, I know a lot of people who are in the middle of that would not like to hear that. You know, I definitely didn't want to hear that when I was in the middle of my thick either. But I just think sometimes people discredit the challenge. You know, like, the challenge is part of the sauce. But anyways, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with you in a lot of aspects on that, in the sense that nobody reveres anybody for making it to the top with ease. We only care about the people that had to get to the top to overcome those obstacles. And so I can see the point that you're making, in the sense that, like, removing all of those obstacles from them will make them less resilient people, and so they may not succeed to the level that they could have had they done it on their own.
Well, you're removing access obstacles, not the obstacle itself.
That depends on how you
degree.
That depends on how you define it.
Yeah,
but either way, I think that for me, it really comes down to letting people live the way that they want to live. Because I don't think that just because I have a certain way that I think that society would be best doesn't necessarily mean that it would be. Because I don't know much of anything, really, and I think that I'd rather see stuff like Telosa come about, where you can have, like he said, he wanted to have the governance model of a Scandinavian country. He's talking about having a city in America that's going to be governed as another country. That's interesting. I would like to see something like that happen, and how it develops. Because if that works, then my whole idea of the collective communities of America that's evidence that would prove that it could work. That it doesn't necessarily have to be tribal warfare if you're in your own tribe. It's what I can call contemporary tribalism, where we take the societal structure of tribalism and we blend it with the altruism of our modern day connected lives. And so for me, I think it really comes down to, like, if you want to live in a communist collective, everybody pays all of their money into the system and it feeds back out to help everybody that's not succeeding, by all means, do that. Like, I'm not against that. I'm only against the trying to force your policy, your system on other people. And so, and that goes with any of these ideas.
That ties into everything we've talked about.
That literally, yeah. And that's why it's such a big deal for me, and why I bring it up so much, is because it underlies how I think about all these things. And then one thing that I did want to state, it's not really reference to what we're talking about here at the end of the podcast, but there's a big difference between living in the freest society on earth and living in a free society, full stop. And I think that a lot of people, like you talked about, like the American exceptionalism and we're the best country in the world and everything. Like, although I don't necessarily agree with that, I think that we do certain things the best, and I think that we do certain things really shittily. But I think that it's important to recognize that there's always room for improvement. And if we don't allow somebody to test something out to improve it, then we'll never know what it could be. And that's why I like, hey, you want to use taxes to help lower income people? I'm all for that more than I am for other things, but we got to try different stuff. Otherwise, we'll never be anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, cool. It's a great podcast today, boys. I really appreciated your time. Really appreciated y'all's time, and we will see you again on the next episode.
That's right.
Peace.
Peace.